Good evening, everybody.
To like pass.
It's 6 o'clock, and I'm going to call to order the Village of Franklin's regular council meeting of January 13th, 2025. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. Dana, good evening. Could we get a roll call, please?
Trustee Salappo,
Here.
Trustee Salsa,
Here.
Trustee Solid,
Here.
Trustee Hanson,
Here.
President Over,
Here.
Trustee Gates,
Here.
Trustee Ferris.
Here.
Thank you. Everybody have a chance to review the agenda? Anybody have any comments before I take a motion to adopt it?
Motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Oh, can we, are we gonna, I was reading the December minutes and there was the discussion about the, budget amendments. Are we putting that till next meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
the budget amendment will be brought back to council at the next meeting.
Okay, that's what I thought. The ones that we talked about in December. Okay.
Anybody else? All right. All in favor of adopting the agenda as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. So we have 3 sets of minutes. Let's start with our regular meeting of December 9th.
Motion to approve.
Anybody want to support that motion?
I'll support.
All right, discussion, or anyone have comments? I do not either. Everything is good. Not have any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, and then we had 2 special meetings, one on December 11th, and then a second on December 12th. Let's start with the minutes of the special council meeting of December 11th,
Motion to
2024.
approve. Sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments?
I have some comments.
Okay.
Are we, if, public comment concerns a private citizen, was it the, best practice of council to just not mention that private citizen? Because there's comments about Dan Ferris when he was still a private citizen, and there's comments about Mark Hankey as a private citizen, and I just think that it was decided because we're council members, it's fine if they critique us, but as private citizens, we were gonna be, try to be unbiased regarding the public comments and just mention that so-and-so spoke, but not exactly what they said, because there's like negative comments about Mark Hankey, some negative comments about Dan Ferris, and I just want like that to be in the record if, they're private citizens and not availing themselves to.
What do you mean by negative comments?
Under John Simon, he mentioned Mark Hankey's negative experience and the background issues, urging him to vote against him.
It's part of the minutes. I mean, it's part of the, commentary that was made. Typically, we do publish those. I mean, when people come and opine publicly as citizens about us or any other subject, we don't edit
So-
those.
And may I add, that's not the one we were voting on.
Oh, okay, well then, just the one about Chris King, like, they were positive and negative, so just kind of like, how do we summarize in an unbiased way?
So reflecting back on what you're talking about, Angelina, the context of being generic in the minutes was really specifically to public comments. And when we were having public comments and people coming for public comments and speaking about whether it was other council members or more importantly, speaking about people of the public, that we were sanitizing that. Us discussing what we discuss needs to be part of the record. So if there's anything in here that was from a member of the public, then that is a section that specific references to individuals could be the name of the individual stricken, but what we're discussing for purposes in this context was appointing a new council member. I think those need to stay in the record, and haven't really found the specific.
Well, I know what Angelina is alluding to, but I think it's part of the record. I mean, we were having conversation about the various individuals that we were nominating, for better or for worse, and we were being open and candid about our feelings as to why we were nominating certain individuals and bypassing others. So I don't know what is objectionable about that. I think it should probably stay in the record.
All right, so those comments are in
December 12th.
the 12th. So as far as the minutes from the 11th,
I'd like to propose a change to the, just very minor, on the 11th of December, page 2, there's at the top of the page, a couple of bullet points. I think the topic is almost addressed in the second bullet. Council members discuss the balance between the need for legal expertise and the desire to retain dynamic, skilled individuals. My recollection is that some of the new council members felt very strongly that they needed fresh faces and that inexperience was an asset. I don't have new wording for you, but I think the issue has not been delineated enough in the way the minutes are written. So we could say the first bullet point, Solly and others, or Solly and, Solly and others, countered by highlighting the importance of, that would be fine. I think the second bullet, I can't relate to the second bullet because I don't recall the discussion was the opposition of legal expertise versus dynamic, skilled people.
So you want me to remove that from the minutes?
My proposal was to remove it, but I'm open to modification by other members who were there.
I mean, I think there was definitely points about how long people have lived in the village. That was definitely discussed. How long have you been in the village?
For which bullet are we talking about?
The first.
So the first bullet, I never referenced age as a criteria, so I would argue young. But again, I think the context in which I was bringing it up was we have people who are at the beginning of their volunteerism and people at the end. And so it wasn't a reference to the age, it was their experience or their kind of journey through volunteerism within the community.
I think we'd have to go back to the tape to actually listen to and determine whether these are appropriate abbreviations to the minutes, but I'm inclined to just suggest we leave it be. We all know what we said, and it's available for the public.
I'd rather
that's not
have
the
the
answer.
clerk go back to the tape and recast those sentences. I think they're important. There was a clear division of opinion between experience, and forgive me, but I'm not going to claim myself as the end of my volunteer experience. There are seasoned, experienced people here that we were talking about. You just made the comment about people at the beginning of their volunteer experience and others at the end. I don't think that was quite accurate, but I think rather than take up time in the meeting, could we request Dana to go back and take another run at these two bullets?
Yeah, why don't I would recommend just moving forward, let's postpone B under minutes and bring those forward at the next meeting. We'll look back at that tape and move on.
Okay.
And
That would be fine with
That'd be
me.
fine with me.
all right, so that was Mike, this was your motion, so you'll withdraw your motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, and I'll
For the
restate.
December 11th minutes.
I'll restate the motion to approve the minutes of the 11th with modifications to be reviewed, considering comments made regarding 2 bullet points on the second page.
Well, all right, Mike, let's just bring it back next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
let's do
then,
that.
let's do it for both of those minutes. Well,
Well,
What
let's,
was there on the 12th?
So the 12th, and my memory could be bad, was, page 2, second bullet down. Was Natalia Shub present?
Not that I'm
No.
aware of.
no,
Okay,
No.
because it says Natalia Shub addressed concerns about having 4 lawyers on council.
oh, no.
So, actually, for all of these, that's what I was wondering, because Daniel Rosenberg wasn't either, so were these comments that were submitted ahead of the meeting that weren't then shared with council, or is these just, neither of them were at the council meeting nor commented?
I wasn't at that meeting, so I don't know. I assumed that someone had addressed the council with their.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's
right.
table both. I would recommend both
Yeah.
those minutes, and I'll have Dana go back
Dana
and
go
watch
back
the
to the-
tape.
And just
That's true.
one additional point, on this one, under public comments, it says Goldberg clarified that the meeting was not a regular public comments, but for addressing candidates. That should be clarified, or when you go back, review the specific, he was not commenting that there wasn't public comment, it was that public comment is for things that weren't on the agenda, and because something was on the agenda, to reserve the comment for that time.
Yep.
And then this is the, public comment I'm talking about regarding Mark Hanky. So if his name should be stricken, I don't know, David, this was my, point, that like Mark is a private citizen, and he was brought up in public comment. And I don't want this on the record if it's inappropriate.
So the person's name should be replaced with one of the candidates.
And I would suggest, Dana, that you review the tape since you weren't here, and that it would have been obvious that Daniel Rosenberg did not present himself. He was presented by David Solly, and Natalia was presented by Angelina, and where this comment about having 4 attorneys on council, I don't know where that would have come from. It certainly wouldn't have been from her.
That was a comment I made.
That was a comment.
It
I
was.
had made that comment, but again, I think we should just.
But it wasn't relative to Natalia.
No, no.
It was your comment. So this needs to be reviewed. I agree. Let's withdraw these last 2 special meeting minutes and revisit.
Yeah, well,
Okay?
especially since Dana wasn't at this one, so,
Okay.
yeah, you guys should go through it together.
We need a clearer picture.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, actually, the next part of our meeting is, for us as trustees, one of our more favorite parts of the year, when we get the opportunity to have our detectives and officers and staff and all of their families present to recognize the outstanding achievements of our police department in general, but more specifically, certain events that have taken place. So I will take this opportunity to turn it over to the chief.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Meg, our village administrator, and all the trustees for giving us this time during your busy meeting. I was taking a look at the agenda, and I know it could be a long night, so I appreciate you taking the time to recognize and promote 2 outstanding individuals. As I've stated to all of you in the past, and I've actually been here a year now, we have a lot of talent and a lot of natural leadership on this police department. I've been very impressed since day one. We had 5 officers go through the promotional process for 1 open sergeant's position, and 2 sergeants apply and go through the process for the 1 lieutenant's position. And I can confidently say from the feedback that I got from the oral board, which was comprised of 3 different departments, that all 7 individuals did an outstanding job. They represented themselves very well. They represented the department very well. So tonight I want to begin with the sergeant promotion. So we'd have Officer Jeff Gorski come on up. He doesn't always like the spotlight, so I said, you're going to stand right there. Now, the sergeant's position is one of the most important positions in any police department. They are your line supervisors. They're to oversee, to answer questions from the officers, to understand liability, policy, ensure quality control, and to motivate our team. I wanted someone that had experience, someone who was level-headed, and who could multitask. And back this past November in 2024, I sat down with every single person within the police department for one-on-one interviews. And one of the questions I asked these individuals was, who do you want to lead you? Who do you want to be the sergeant, the new sergeant? And the responses I received told me that Jeff is respected by his peers, and they felt as I do, he is the right person for the job. Now, Jeff has followed in his father's law enforcement footsteps. His dad's right here. He's chief of police. I believe you've been doing this for about 40 years. Wow. 40 years. Jeff became a police officer almost 14 years ago. He began his career with the Huron-Clinton Metropolitan Authority. He was there for 2 years, and then we were fortunate enough for him to come to Franklin. And Jeff found a great deal of success right away as a police officer. And he was assigned to the FBI Gang and Violent Task Force, where he fine-tuned his skills and worked side by side with outstanding officers throughout Oakland County. Jeff is a decorated officer. He's received the Chief's Citation, the Sheriff's Special Commendation Citation, a Life-Saving Award, and numerous department and unit citations. So I am very pleased today to be able to promote Jeff Gorski to the rank of sergeant. And I believe that you'd like your dad to come up and pin your badge, correct?
It's a good one.
We gotta move over this way or that way, because. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Great.
I got it.
Appreciate you.
Great work.
Would you like to say a few words?
Hi, yes. So I'll keep it short. I know the council probably has a lot to discuss tonight, so I won't take up too much time. There are a lot of individuals that I can thank that helped put me to where I'm at right now. From family members and loved ones who supported me and pushed me towards achieving my goals. From current supervisors and former supervisors who gave me the tools and knowledge to succeed and carry on the legacy of leadership at this department. I am truly honored to be promoted to a supervisor position here, where I can continue serving the department and the community in a greater capacity. I've been at this department over 11 years now, and I've always been inspired by the dedication, courage, and hard work that all the officers show in here every day. As I step into this new position, I promise to lead with integrity, fairness, and with the commitment that we'll grow stronger together as a team. This promotion is not just a milestone for me. It is also a reminder of the responsibilities that we carry as law enforcement professionals. Those responsibilities are to serve, protect, and lead by example. I am truly humbled at this opportunity and look forward to serving the community and the department with honor, integrity, and pride. Thank you.
When did they find out?
Our second promotion for the evening is for the position of lieutenant. Come on up. Another guy that doesn't like the spotlight. Holding the rank of lieutenant means that you are second in charge. That means you have a greater responsibility, more liability exposure. I don't think I mentioned that during the process. And additional expectations for me. The person that holds this rank must be a big picture thinker, be able to delegate effectively while motivating the team to meet its goals. Now, I've been in a police executive position since 2007. I've always surrounded myself with knowledgeable, capable, and many times much more intelligent people than myself. People that have diverse views and experiences who will challenge me when the situation calls for it. And I am confident in saying that Bob Midlowski checks all of these boxes, and he is the perfect choice to be the next lieutenant of our department. Bob began his career in the Detroit Police Department in 2001, serving in the patrol division while also serving for 13 years on the mobile field force and also being a field training officer, which means he trained other officers. He left the Detroit PD for Franklin in 2014. After years of hard work, Bob was promoted to the rank of sergeant in 2018. He has received numerous citations and awards from both Detroit and the Franklin Police Department, and there's not enough time to name them all, so I left it out. He has attended the Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command, attended the FBI Executive Leadership Institute, and the FBI MPEDS Leadership Course. Bob and his wife, Heather, live in Franklin. They've been embedded for this community since you left Detroit, and they're very active in all of our community events. So I think he is an absolutely perfect choice to be second in charge and our newest lieutenant. Ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe we should kill the lights. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And if you'd like to say a few words, feel free.
Jeff rocked it, so I'm just, I wrote down a few things, but like I said, that was good. So, just a few things really quickly. First, I believe law enforcement is a calling. It's not just a job. God called me to law enforcement in 2000, and 2014, he brought me here to Franklin. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the opportunity as a leader. It allows me an opportunity to equip and empower our department to continue to improve on the exceptional service we provide to both our villages. And Franklin's a great community. Like I said, we live here, we love it here, and I'm very appreciative of all the overwhelming support we've gotten from our village residents, from our council, from our administration. Thank you so much, both here and in Bingham Farms. Great communities, and I speak for everyone when I say that we're thankful for that, and that's not common. It doesn't happen all the time. I'm also thankful for the opportunity to work with so many people that are talented professionals. We have a great relationship with our fire department. We have great relationships with all the communities around us, all the public safety, and we have great people in our department. Everywhere from our clerks, officers, the other supervisors. I'm blessed to be able to work with them and to be part of them and then to also help them to continue to grow and develop professionally and personally. So it's a privilege on my part, and I don't take that lightly. Chief Lawson, thank you for this opportunity, your confidence in me. Thankful for your leadership, and I do look forward to your vision for our department's future. Thank you very much. I'm also blessed to have a wealth of friends and family that are here, that came to see me. I don't take that lightly. So one person I want to mention specifically, Mike Bastinelli. Most of you know him, recently retired lieutenant. But Mike was my scout car partner in Detroit, way back. And And as soon as he came here, he immediately started telling me, I need to come here, I need to come here. And he encouraged me to apply here. He wouldn't let it go. Thank you very much, Mike. He's my best friend. He is my brother in Christ. And last, I can't say enough, my wife Heather, she's been my constant support partner and everything for more than 30 years, so couldn't have done it. So, thank you all very much.
God bless.
Thank you.
I think it might be appropriate to take a 2-minute recess if anyone wants to clear out.
Yeah, I was gonna say something, but okay.
Oh, sorry.
The sun still
I will.
works here, right? Yeah. The underground road.
Yep.
We don't sell out seats. No, only the police sell out seats. We have
When I got here, I was like, what's going on?
I have the pleasure of seeing
Thought
them
maybe
all on my
something we were
ring camera
discussing
all the
had
time, because they're always
grown
coming
some
by, and
attention, but
I'll talk to them when they're standing on my
Frank
porch.
Bad Rat didn't get to that.
No, because they do your drive-by.
Way more important.
Oh, all the
out of
time,
town
and they're
for
checking my
yeah.
doors and stuff, and my ring, announces stuff that's going on, no matter where I am.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I get to say hi to them.
A little bit before the new year. Yeah. Been there for 20 years, right? Hold up.
Okay, before we move on, everybody's already cleared out of the room, but in addition to our congratulations to our new Sergeant Jeff and our new Lieutenant Bob, I wanted to take this opportunity on behalf of the council and all of the men, women, and children in the village of Franklin who all go to bed and sleep safely at night because of the men and women in our amazing police force, as well as our fire department, but this was for our police department today. And just want to make sure that you know how much we all appreciate everything that you do for us on a daily and nightly basis, and God bless you all. Okay, next item is our public comments. So anybody from the public that would like to comment on something that isn't already on the agenda, please come up to the podium, give us your name and street you live on.
Would be easier to do it from the audience since we can't get through all the chairs.
No, you have to
Actually,
come
we
up with
prefer to have you here. We need to have your voice and get you on the record. Sorry about that.
Good evening, I'm George Rudder. I live on Tudor Lane over in Upper Dorchester. Thanks for the time. I was a recipient of a text or an email coming through wondering about pathways connecting neighborhoods and such in Franklin. Nice thought. A lot of money, a lot of maintenance, a lot of upkeep. You know, who's going to have to get their right-of-way or their easement through their yards? You know, is this something that would end up with eminent domain issues? Me personally, I like living where I do. I've come from big cities, but I do have a background. I've seen things burned to the ground. My home's in Arizona, 1,500 feet, close. So we had issues in northern Arizona. We had a whole city. The fire department had not inspected a single hydrant in the existence. And then it was covered up. Homes burned, stores burnt with the wildfires that they have. Instead of spending the money passionately on Pathway, which I don't think people are going to use because they're not going to do it on a night like this with the snow. I would rather see fire hydrants that work. If you look at California, you don't know what's going to happen. But even if it's one house, rather than saving the houses on either side, you would like that confidence that they could come in, hook to a hydrant, and take care of their business. Closest hydrant to my house is across Telegraph. It's about a quarter mile away. And all I'm saying is, I think the money would be spent wisely on hydrants rather than passionately on something that's not going to be used, but it's going to have to be maintained for years and be constructed, so it's a lot of money. I appreciate your consideration in this, but, I just think it's the right thing to do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comment.
Anybody else? Mr. Kopelman.
Jeff Kopelman, Oak Leaf Lane. I've lived here for over 30 years. I was out of town for part of December. When I came back, I spent many hours listening to all of your meetings that you had, your special meetings. And a couple of things. One, I was very surprised, very shocked, and very disappointed in some of the conversations that I heard among you all. And some of you were too, because you said that you were. And obviously, I clearly hope that's not how this council is going to run, because that's, I think, going to be a problem. But more importantly, that's up to you guys. I was really more disappointed what I did not hear. And what I did not hear, especially for you new council members, I'm certain that all of you have read the Franklin Charter, which you're working under, which the folks here you represent. I'd like to just read something to you from the charter. The preamble says this: "We, the residents of Franklin, by virtue of the rights granted to us by the Constitution and laws of the state of Michigan, wishing to preserve our rural-like environment and the identity of historic Franklin." Let me repeat that. The historic Franklin do hereby ordain and establish the Franklin Charter. All those meetings that you had, all the people you interviewed, I did not hear one word about historic preservation or rural-like or anything in the preamble of this charter. I find that shocking and very disappointing. And I hope that's not how this council is going to operate. But I understand it's 2025. I know there's some people who want to turn Franklin upside down and do all kinds of things to it. I get all that. But that's not right now what this charter says. It talks about the rural-like and historic value of the village of Franklin. I hope you've all read this. See that guy on the wall right behind you? You should take a look at him. I don't think he's very happy for what he's saying. And I hope that's not what's going to happen. The other thing I noticed, there were two very, very interesting words that were used quite often during those days. I don't know if those made into the minutes. One was passion. I heard several people up there use the word passion. Passion's good. This one has passion about the village. Passion, passion. And I think that's great, because there are a group of people in the village of Franklin that have a lot of passion about the historic value of it, about what the charter says, and about what the preamble to the charter says about the village. This is not Birmingham, this is not Farmington Hills, and this is not Southfield or Troy. This is a very special place. And there are a group of us that want to keep it as much as we can practically in that way. And I know the other word I heard before I leave, the other word I heard besides passion, of course, is transparency. Everybody likes to use transparency, so I'm going to be very transparent. I want all of you to know there's been several meetings. There are a group of villagers who are interested in petitions to recall all of you. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else? Please.
Hello, Happy New Year. My name is Rich Nunzianti. I live on North Cromwell Drive, not too far from George. And I too want to talk about the idea or the plan maybe that's going around about pathways through our village and in certain neighborhoods. I think that this is probably more on the planning commission side than the general council at this point, but My concern is about safety and security, and so I think that's important to address in any of the council meetings. I kind of feel bad talking about this with all of the great police promotions that we had tonight, but with security and home invasions and car thefts being off the charts lately in Oakland County, where our own Oakland County Sheriff is warning us to be vigilant and so forth, I don't think carving paths from one house to another or one street to another, particularly in wooded areas like my area is on North Cromwell, is a very smart thing to do. I think we're inviting problems. You know, the neighborhoods are relatively calm and quiet, and I don't think that putting shortcuts between our streets where there are already no streetlights is a good approach. You know, I think we should be focusing on protecting residents versus making crime a little easier. So that's my little soapbox. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Be very hard. I want to thank the police department and the fire department for medical that was at my house back in October. The guys did a great job, and I'm back on road. My name is Mark Ziso. I'm at 32695 Redfern. We got a great bunch of guys here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good to see you up and around, Mark.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, everybody. Next are the reports of our village officers and agents. Let's start with Chief Lawson.
We're still in the process of moving towards the new monthly report. You'll see the complete new monthly report next month. I've seen the product. It looks great. The only correction to this report is under felony arrest. We did have one felony arrest out of Bingham Farms for fraud. So besides that, is there any questions?
Yeah, just real quick, I noted several loggings for larceny from mail. Is this a trend that we're seeing increase? Is this something that residents should just be mindful of and be able to use this platform to kind of just remind people?
So I'd say this was about as bad as I've ever seen it over the holidays, with people taking packages from front porches. And what we're consistently seeing throughout Oakland County, and really I think it's more widespread, is that as soon as an iPhone usually is dropped off on your front porch, within 10 minutes it's taken. So that tells me there's some inside information somewhere. We also seen that individuals are following FedEx trucks in particular. So the officers have been flooding as much as possible into the neighborhoods and trying to keep an eye out. But yeah, this is throughout Oakland County, certainly.
All right, appreciate it.
So Chief, just as, curious, just for clarity, when it says larceny from mail, it's not from mailboxes?
No,
Or are we
it's-
seeing?
it's from front
Okay,
porches.
it's packages?
Yep.
Okay, because we've had that too,
Correct.
but that was a whole different epidemic.
And again, in that instance, I believe there's some inside work being done because they're taking specific, checks out of mail and things like that, so.
I can
Yes.
only encourage, as I'm sure you do, people having Ring cameras, because then everything is captured, so.
It certainly helps us if we can capture a license plate, or we can at least capture the type of vehicle. We can use some other law enforcement systems to track that person down and try to
Right.
find out where they went.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes?
I don't recall, Sheriff Bouchard mentioning this recently, but do you have any updates on these people who would go around to high-end homes and rob them?
Sure.
Has it been quiet, or are we just not seeing what's happening?
There was one recently.
It's kind of ebb and flow, right? So they come into the state, they go into high-end communities, Rochester, West Bloomfield, Franklin. They do pre-surveillance, and they always want no one to be home. I mean, that's their goal. They really don't want to hurt anyone. They're not usually armed. They want to go into the bedroom, get jewelry, cash, and they want to get out. It's been quiet for a while. Sunday, there was a home invasion in Bingham Farms, attempted home invasion. They broke a glass of the door to try to get inside. The alarm activated, and they fled. There was also a home invasion in Bloomfield Township the same night. So they're back in the communities. We just put on our social media today, everyone needs to be vigilant. If you see something suspicious, give us a call. We know that they're using drones for pre-surveillance, and they're also sending out individuals to do some pre-surveillance, and then they're sending another crew to do the home invasion itself. But it's usually around sunset between like 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. So my advice to the residents is that, if you see something, please say something. We've let the mobile watch people know as well. And obviously, we're getting our officers into the neighborhoods as much as possible.
And here's the entire council sitting here between 6 and 9 p.m.
And the whole police department, so it's all good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Averbach.
Good evening and happy 2025. A lot of new faces here, so I hope over the near future I'll get a chance to meet each of you that are new to the council. Unfortunately, my message is a little different from the previous ones. On December 21st, at approximately 1 in the morning, we had a fatal house fire in the village of Bingham Farms. The fire department responded. We were there throughout the evening, and we were supported by multiple agencies, both fire, police, and EMS agencies. One person died, another remains in the hospital at Detroit Receiving in the Burn Center. One of our firefighters was also burned in this fire and is undergoing aftercare with regard to that. Our firefighter is back on duty and did not miss any work time. However, the burns were significant. With that said, I don't want to get into any details regarding the fire because it remains under investigation by the Oakland County Sheriff's Office Fire Investigation Unit. It's a long term to say. But needless to say, it brings to mind some phone calls that we've had, and it brings to mind some opportunities that we offer. Everyone should have a fire safety plan. Everyone should have an emergency plan. Whether you have kids or you don't, whether you're young or you're old, it doesn't matter. Fire strikes anyone at any time. There are other emergencies that can happen to anyone at any time. Just walking in here tonight, we've got strong winds, cold weather. This is a perfect opportunity to lose power and not have heat. So my suggestion to the public who's watching this, who might be watching this, please make a plan. If you have a plan, take a look at it. If you have that plan and you've looked at it, when was the last time you tested it? I'm not saying light your house on fire, but I am saying figure out, here's a fire, what do you do now? I've had a number of phone calls from residents with regard to things like acquiring fire ladders and with other things that they're talking about. Well, it works well unless you don't practice with it, and then it can be absolutely horrible. The fire department is an opportunity, and we've offered the service since longer than I've been here, which is 26 years this month, which is an opportunity as a separate set of eyes to come into anyone's home, to walk through the home and take a look at something. And if you think about your home, you might have lived there for 3 months or 3 years or 30 years or 50 years. But the reality is you're used to seeing the things that are there. You're used to the placement of items. We're coming in as someone who's never been to your home, hopefully. And in this way, we can talk about things like fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide meters, general housekeeping, storage of chemicals and materials. And we can get into things like our Knoxbox program. We can discuss things like fire extinguishers, meeting places, and I can talk about disaster response for probably longer than you want to be awake on any given day, as I've been doing that for 3 decades as well. Please take advantage of the opportunity. This isn't an inspection where there's going to be tickets issued. This is nothing more than a conversation. And we're looking forward to having that conversation with anyone and everyone who wants to participate. In terms of costs, yes, there are costs. If you need smoke detectors, if you need monitored systems, if you need fire extinguishers, if you want a Knoxbox, there is a cost to that. Unfortunately, costs are not cheap because they go, just like with everything else in life. The fire department makes no income. There is no income that we earn. I can tell you, my wife can tell you even better, I am a horrible salesperson. So I'm not going to sell you on anything, I'm just going to drop some hints and have a conversation and explain things. More importantly than all of that, though, is if you have questions, or your families have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer as best I can, and if I can't, I'll find the answer and I'll get it to you. So with that said, you've received my monthly report, and that'll conclude my statement. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy.
So Tony, what's the process if we were to ask our firefighter to walk through our property? How do we?
Give us a call at the fire station, ask for me, my name's Tony.
No, I know.
You know me.
But.
We'll set up a time
Okay.
that's convenient.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll be business hours, but I can make exceptions for at night.
So that's available to our entire constituency.
Absolutely.
Anybody who wants to do that can avail through
If
the
you
village
live-
office.
yeah, if you live in the village, yes. If you live outside of Franklin, no.
Yeah.
You have your own fire department.
What about those fire blankets that a lot of people are buying? I just recently purchased one. What are your thoughts about those kinds of things?
For what? Fire blanket for what?
It's
There's different kinds.
it's a kitchen fire blanket. Actually, somebody gave it to us as a gift. And
It's made out of fiberglass?
you know what? I honestly don't even know. It comes in a pouch.
It was a recycled gift that they gave.
No, I don't know. I've heard a
If you have a
lot.
grease fire, instead of going to a fire extinguisher, which is messy, you throw this over the fire.
You know, we actually, I had a resident just today, it's an interesting question. A resident came in today with a small fiberglass fire blanket that comes in a little red pouch.
Yeah.
She had a
That's it.
fire in her fireplace. It was a candle that got a little out of hand. And she threw it on there and wanted to know what she should do with it, and I pointed her right to the garbage can. A lot of these items, while they may work, they're,
Prepared hero.
yeah, that's what she had.
Okay.
So
You don't think that's worthwhile?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's not a reusable item.
Correct.
This is a one and done thing.
Yeah.
And the suggestion would be, understand what you're getting into before, a fire extinguisher is nice because I can get to a fire from me to you. For me to apply a blanket, I have to get right up to you. So you have to have a good assessment. In terms of kitchen fires, a pot lid works really well too.
Yeah.
Fire extinguishers can be very messy. I completely agree with you, and it can cause a lot of damage in doing other things. But when it comes to the tools that are there,
Yeah.
if you want to use it, great. But I would say read about it before the fire. Don't pull out the instructions.
Well, that's why I'm
before the
asking,
fire
because these are 40 by 40 flame retardant fire blankets. They come in packages of 4 packs for
Yeah.
for under $30. It's like, seems like a reasonable thing for every home to have, but,
I don't know enough about that
Okay.
individual item.
all right, just I thought I'd
comment.
throw it out there.
Yeah, real quick question. We had a public comment regarding fire hydrants, and of course, within the community, we don't have water. And so as a result of that, what I was wondering though is like, on our side of Telegraph is still technically within Bingham Farms. Have we mapped out possible locations that are immediately adjacent to our community that could potentially help a few residents?
So you're asking if we've mapped out
Like,
fire
is there,
hydrant
I guess
locations?
my initial question is, do we have a water line running down the Franklin side of Telegraph, being as that still belongs to Bingham Farms?
Well, oh, I see what you're saying. So both sides of Telegraph, north and south, belong to Bingham Farms. It's
Correct.
their, well, it belongs to the state, but it's within
Right.
Bingham Farms. The hydrants in Bingham Farms are on the east side of the road. There is nothing on the west side of the road. To answer your question with regard to mapping hydrants, we have mapped hydrants on all 4 sides of Franklin Village,
Is
whether
that-
it be Bingham Farms, Bloomfield Township, Farmington Hills, or Southfield. So, fire department personnel, we subscribe to an app service called Active 911. There's a mapping feature within that, and that mapping feature contains locations of all hydrants in Bingham Farms, plus those that are around Franklin on the perimeter.
Okay. And is that, do you have that, I know you have that large map in the fire station?
It's not
It's not on there?
No,
Okay.
because if we're responding to a fire,
Yeah, you're
we'll
not.
typically,
Right.
they'll look at the map to see the house location, but we do have iPads which contain this app on both our frontline rescue and our engine. And when we have incidents, the last incident in Southfield was on, I want to say Cheviot Hills.
Okay.
What we do is two things. In terms of personnel and process, we established a water supply officer. One of our firefighters takes that position, and incoming tankers from other departments as well as our own are briefed out on where to go get water, how to bring it back, and what the process will be, so that way it's a smooth flow. With regard to equipment, we maintain, lost my voice on Friday. This is wonderful. We maintain 2 pumper tankers in our apparatus fleet. One holds 2,500 gallons, the other holds 2,900 gallons. And we are one of the few remaining communities in southeast Oakland County that does this, but we also are part of a bigger mutual aid group. So when you go more west and north within Oakland County, there are additional tankers. And so we'll bring in 4 or 5 other fire departments to support just moving water for Franklin's needs.
Okay, thank you.
So in a typical house fire like the one that occurred in Bingham,
Yes.
how many tankers of water did you go through?
Well, Bingham has hydrants, so we didn't need to move water.
What about the fire in Cheviot Hills?
We probably went through 14 or 15 truckloads of water.
Wow.
So the important thing is,
Yeah.
and I don't want to, I've been here long enough to know about the history of the water vote in
Right.
Franklin. I don't want to touch that. But I would say it was very helpful that Bingham Farms had a hydrant. With the amount of people, the time of day, or the time of night that this occurred, to spool up a tanker shuttle operation takes some time. In terms of Franklin's needs, I would say individually, if you have an alarm system, make sure it's a monitored system. The quicker we can get notice that there's a fire, the quicker we can call mutual aid, the quicker they can arrive. The closest mutual aid tanker is in West Bloomfield, at the northwest corner of the township, of their township. It takes about 25 minutes to get here. So with the amount of water that we have, we can go on our own for about 25 minutes. That's stretching it a bit before we run out. And that's moving water back and forth. Limited amounts of hoses and things like that. But this is something that we're very concerned about. We've been concerned about it for years, since the COM property was developed, and even before then, but.
How far apart typically are fire hydrants? How many would we
But-
need in Franklin?
They're about 500 feet from each other. So you would lay a water main, and then as the main is extended throughout the community, you'd put a hydrant at 500-foot intervals.
Do you have an estimate of how much that would be in
I-
Franklin?
I don't, but I think Hubble, Roth, and Clark, if I'm not mistaken, did a study several years ago.
And the most important thing would be, it's not just location of fire hydrants, right? We need to bring the water and build the infrastructure to be able to support that, so, I mean,
Not
that's.
like 20 or 25, it would have to be.
No, they're.
No,
Oh,
and
no,
the
a lot
hydrants
more than that.
themselves, I think,
Be
would be the
hundreds.
easiest thing to put in. It's the actual water infrastructure that we'd have to
Right.
run, multi-million-dollar project, I mean.
Are there
Well,
fire
no,
hydrants?
Tens of
Are there
millions.
fire hydrants on the perimeter in Farmington Hills, in Southfield, in Bingham, in Bloomfield Township that we can feed from?
Well, all right, guys, we're digressing right now.
All right. Yep. It's a big issue.
HRC has analyzed that. The plan would call for us connecting into each of our sister communities, depending on which border it came from. So yes, we would have to tap into each of the 4 communities, but that's a discussion for another day. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Anybody else got anything for Chief?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Yep.
You too.
This is a depressing meeting.
Lance, our treasurer's report, please.
Good evening, trustees and president. Please accept my written report in the capacity as the village treasurer. The bills list report for this month totals $250,683.13, and the amounts on the bills list are consistent with normal monthly spending, and the expenditures are generally consistent with our budget. The bills list for this month includes a large entry of $25,500. It's for replacement HVAC system for both the police and Broughton house, paid to Air Connects Heating and Air Conditioning. The village has sufficient funds to meet its current and anticipated obligations, and the list of account balances in the package is of the January the 1st that we hold at First Merchants Bank. Any questions?
Does that cover
Anybody
the
have
whole
questions?
fee?
For the furnace,
For the
yes,
furnaces, there's 2 furnaces in this building
correct,
and 1 furnace in the police department.
Right.
yes.
Okay, and that's actually less than I thought you had prepared us for.
That's down payment, that was half.
Okay,
Oh, sorry, it's half.
that makes sense, yeah.
Oh,
Is it just one furnace over at the PD? It's more than one. It's 3 of them
3.
over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Three there and.
Okay, so
There'll be another half once the police is finished.
I see, okay, thank you. All right, that is more consistent with what I thought you were saying. Thank you.
For the mowing maintenance signage trees, is the entry for just under 23,000 just for December?
No, I think that one was September.
Okay.
I missed a couple of Jared's bills, so I do have his
Okay.
October, November now.
Perfect. Thank you. Then the other item, the professional accounting services audit prep from Plant Moran, was that 10,000 for essentially preparation for the presentation that we got?
No.
Okay.
It was preparation for the audit, which was
Okay.
completed.
All right.
And your audit presentation will be presented in February. So what we saw the other night at our last council meeting was just a budget amendment.
Yeah.
So no, that is
Okay.
not what that's
Okay.
for. That's
Okay.
for the
I was like,
entire
okay.
audit of last year. They work really closely with Raina, who does our audit, and that is a typical preparation fee to get all of that ready. There's a number of reports that we file with the state, so it includes all of those reports. We meet a couple of times, so there's a lot that goes into completing the audit, but that's
Okay.
what that fee is for.
Thank you. And then the entry for the Birmingham Youth Assistance CDBG grant reimbursement of 7,000, was that unspent funds that had to be returned, or is that us issuing it out?
That was us issuing it
Okay.
out, and they were not our recipients that we had just voted on in December. This is from the previous
Yep.
year. Since it's a reimbursement type status, they have to give us receipts, and then we end
Got
up
it.
distributing. So they were really down to the wire there. They
Yeah.
had to get those expended, but that's what you see there is
Yeah.
from the previous
Okay,
distribution.
very helpful. And then the last thing from me is, I noted that we have the 2024 council fee accounted for within this, but that was for the previous council.
Correct.
And so, and we don't receive that annually, we receive it for the term, or is it annually?
It's annually.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we do have, yeah, that's why I was wondering, and just making
It's
sure.
annually.
Okay,
It's usually due in December.
yep, perfect. Thank you, appreciate it.
I have a couple of questions. The Alliance of Rouge Communities, what is that and what benefit, like, what do we get from that alliance?
Well, the Alliance takes care of a lot of the preservation of the river as it runs through. So we don't have the facilities or the staff here to manage that space, make sure that it's, protected, stays clean. And so this is a common expense. We belong to the road communities. There is an agreement there. We do certain things such as like putting them in our newsletter and notifying them of that. But they really take responsibility for programming and preservation of any of that water access that we would have here.
Okay. And then the drainage assessment study by HRC, what was that for? And do we receive that?
It would have been taking place sometime during Roger. I think it was back in April of last year, and I'm not sure why the bills were so late to be added to the report there. But the drainage study, it's my understanding, was part of the comprehensive water infrastructure study that they were doing, and it was the first part to go through. There were a number of steps that were taken. They cleaned out all of these drains that run over here on Carroll. They did a bunch of research over there. So it was all pertaining to that. It's a good question, and we need to dive more into HRC and where we were at with that drainage. A lot of those funds that were budgeted were ARPA funds that we had put over, and that really helped fuel that. But
since we have like a newly appointed infrastructure and sidewalk committee, can we have access to the studies so we can like read the infrastructure studies
We can-
somehow
yeah, we-
before we like ask the questions that have already been reviewed and assessed and stuff like that.
They can redistribute those. I think you'll have to come up and pick up hard copies. I don't see any way of which, other than hosting it online, that you would be able to see it electronically. It's about, I don't know, almost 1,000 pages. And that's why we need a special study with the council to talk about it. It's just very dense in the amount of work that
Do
they
they
had done.
do executive summaries to those studies?
I mean, there is, but when you go,
It's
your
not.
executive summary is not gonna be as helpful as you want it to be, because it really breaks every area down by jurisdiction, and then they focus on the infrastructure needs for the various jurisdictions. So a summary wouldn't cover all of it, it's just dense material. But yes, we can work with HRC to get hard copies available at the office for you to pick up, and I think that would be helpful for all council members to have prior to a study session.
Okay. Thank you. That was it.
Okay. To answer your question, Angelina, the drainage assessment study was the study of all the ditches and culverts on every street. It should be completed by now.
It is.
So they had gone through it in zones. So I'm assuming that this is for some bills. But we shouldn't be seeing much more on that, because I was under the impression that the study was complete.
Correct.
It's a map, and yeah, the map's probably 100 pages. Yeah.
Oh, easy, the
Yeah.
map takes up a lot of space there, and it's a comprehensive study. I mean, we really got what we paid for, so each jurisdiction you'll see is broke down with a lot of detail in that. But yes, that should be one of the last things we see. I think there are a couple more stragglers for HRC that you'll see on your next bills, and these are, I went and did a grab for everything that was outstanding from when Roger was still here, and the way HRC bills depends on the project that they're working on and whether or not the project is finished or not. So there's a couple more there, but we are not currently and actively working with HRC any further on the drain study. It's my understanding that that's been wrapped up until we make until you make decisions as council as what you'd want your further actions to
Correct.
be.
Thanks. Anybody else with questions? If not, can we get a motion to approve the bills list?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Pay the bills. Special reports. I really don't have anything to report since our last meeting. I would like to officially, on behalf of council, congratulate Meg on her getting married. So congratulations from all of us. We're really happy for you and wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you.
But she broke a promise to me, though. I was supposed to walk her down the aisle, and she couldn't wait. It's all right. I'll get
Next
over
time.
it.
Is he watching this?
Your dad and I are in touch, man. We're in touch.
That's all I have.
I
Anybody
had
else?
something. I'm sorry.
I'll start with Mike.
Oh, I had a constituent call me today and say, congratulations, so happy to see our sidewalks, but they're covered with snow. What are we going to do about it? So I don't know whether we've addressed this, thought about it, talked about it. Growing up as a kid, there was a guy that had one of those plow things, and he would brush the sidewalks. I haven't seen one of those in decades. Have we had any discussion about how we were going to maintain our sidewalks for safety's sake?
I'll throw it over to you. My
Yeah.
understanding is Jerry maintains those.
He does.
year-round. Yeah.
To an extent, Jerry maintains them, but it's a fair and valid point. For example, we've noticed recently, Don, who does our code enforcement, was out downtown on Franklin Road and noticed that there was a drainage issue causing a lot of ice in front of some of our establishments. So it's something that we're aware of. Unfortunately, to correct the problem, it's a private property issue. However, we've come up with a very low-cost solution. We were able to get some materials together, so we are waiting for permission from the property owner to go ahead and assist them. The only reason I use this as an example is there is a maintenance agreement on the sidewalks. It is also property owners' responsibility to, you know, help keep those clear, especially our business owners. But it doesn't stop there, even here in Franklin, and as our code enforcement, like I said, this wasn't a village issue, and we're out there trying to solve the problem. So I would urge, especially everyone in the downtown, to keep their space clean. We want people to walk on the sidewalks safely, and that's very important, and we're working on other solutions down there. But Jerry and his crew really should be down there cleaning out the sidewalks of the
And
downtown
I'm not talking
area.
just specifically downtown, I'm talking all the way to 13 Mile, because this person
Yep.
said, I saw a young woman walking with her puppies and, you know, slipping and sliding. So I don't know if that's a liability for us or not, but it certainly is something that we should be considering how we maintain it.
Absolutely. I know there was a maintenance agreement.
Okay.
I think it goes back to even when we decided to put the sidewalks in. This was a
It was part of
big
the plan.
question.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head, but I'll look at it. I'll touch base with his crew and make sure he's out there, and then know that the village is out there walking them frequently, trying to assess for other issues or ways we can assist residents in keeping that space.
And what's the trigger? Is it an inch or two of snow?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
like with our driveways?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
He is supposed to maintain the
Yep.
sidewalks
Yeah, he is.
through 13 Mile, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have just a quick announcement, which is actually kind of a happy thing. On November 21st, I was approved by the Oakland County Board of Commissioners to join the Oakland County Land Bank Authority Board. And as one of, I think it's a 5-member board overseeing the operations of the Oakland County Land Bank. I'm really excited about it. I was asked to join, and looking forward to this. I represent the constituency of the villages and townships, so they want a voice from the smaller communities, advocating for the interests of business owners and residents on this board. So I just needed you all to know.
Congratulations.
Thank you, I'm
Excellent.
really
Excellent.
excited.
Thanks, Pam.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll go next. So I am the representative for Planning Commission. I won't do much of an update today, but I want to kind of reevaluate how I better liaise to the Planning Commission. And so, David, I'll connect with you after the meeting about just best ways that we think that we can do it. But I think providing somewhat of an update here and getting feedback for things like what's coming up on the agenda to help provide direction to the Planning Commission.
It's funny you say that. I have it written here that I want to add in this section, whether it's a subsection of council reports, but use that as an opportunity for any committee, someone that's on a committee.
Yep.
Or whether you're a liaison to one of our commissions or anywhere else, have an opportunity for updating there. We get to hear specifically from our chair of the Planning Commission and from our Main Street representative, but I think that anyone that wants to use that as an opportunity, Dan from anything from HDC, use this as the time to kind of pass something on or get a question out there that you know that your board or commission is looking to get answered.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have something.
Sure.
Just want to recognize that next Monday is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And in the spirit of his work, we obviously are closing the office, but just to definitely reinforce his legacy, we definitely at the village government want to diversify, our boards, our volunteers, our commissions, and welcome everyone and anyone to please come forth during public comment and share your ideas. And if you can't make it to public comment in person because it's 6 o'clock on a weekday, please contact one of us after hours via email. Ideas are really important, and if I can get, 20 people here next meeting, that would be amazing, because I think that, ideas are really what, drive, this village, because we're all volunteers, like none of us, the fire department doesn't get paid, we don't really get paid, so it's all about volunteerism, having an idea, to help others. One of the resident ideas that came up, well, it was during the campaign, was actually to do a therapy dog reading hour at the library. I connected a resident to the kids librarian last Saturday. They had one, and so that's an idea of like, didn't cost anyone anything, but it was just us making connections to take skills and talents from the residents and match them up with needs and gaps to add value to the village. So like even something, like Mike's dogs, but even something as simple as that, we're here to listen. And those small things really are unique about Franklin, and that took a few weeks to organize, where in other communities it could take a few months. So just like the power of being a small village is something that we want to harness and leverage. Another idea that came up during last meeting's public comment was from John Simon about the way that we appointed a vacant council seat. He had proposed it being like a special election. I definitely think the process was more adversarial than it needed to be. So I definitely think all of us here are open to ideas. So I just want to say thank you for pointing out some of the challenges. I don't think that there are open council seats often, and I would love to know how they do it in different villages. And the last thing I have is kudos to Meg, because her responsiveness is like minutes and hours. When someone sends an email, I'll be at Panera, someone will come up to me, I'll email Meg, and she'll get back to me before I leave Panera. Like, that's just insane. That kind of like responsiveness I've never had in Franklin. So thank you. It was over, a potential blighted house and construction zone, and she knew right about it, and she got back to me, and I got back to the resident, and they thanked me even though it wasn't the result they wanted. It was just a matter of like being heard, and I think that, that's something that this new council wants to really bring. On top of that, this has come up like the last 2 meetings. We get these like really thorough packets, thank you, Meg, and we get them Friday evening, and then it's like hours and hours to review and look at the minutes and drive by the homes to be prepared by Monday, and then I email Meg all these questions, and there's no time to respond, because the village isn't working the weekend. So really, the legal meeting timing is driving the delivery of our agenda and packets. Is there any way to move the legal meeting where you guys set the agenda so we can get the agenda and packets before Friday afternoon? Because it's like Meg's staff only has so many days to do it. And really it's driven by the timing of the legal meeting, not her staff. So like when we get them late Friday, actually this Friday we got them in the afternoon, which was great because I could send you an email, but it was still right at 5 o'clock.
Right.
And so, like, I ended my day early to email Mag, but then her day had ended, and then she got back to me on Sunday, but today was Monday, so, it's hard.
Any chance we could get the packets on Thursday, for instance?
Well, could I make a separate proposal? Is there anything that would prevent us from holding the legal committee a week earlier?
So the only thing that's gonna prevent that is the amount of work that you're gonna see done between each of your agenda. Because if you hold that legal a week earlier, think about it, legal gets it the Friday before they're legal. So you've really only given me 2 weeks of work time to address issues and to respond and create reports. So that's kind of the time constraint there. What we could do, maybe that might be helpful, I don't know, this would be a council decision, I'm just brainstorming, was maybe when legal gets a draft agenda, everybody gets a draft. It's just a draft, we don't know what will be on the final agenda, but that way, like if I think about it in context for this evening, right, you would have gotten that draft agenda a week before when everybody else got the draft. We still give you the final agenda, but the problem is that things change at legal. Things change at what's gonna be on there.
It's not the agenda she's concerned about, it's the information itself.
Just the,
And now, let's back up. Our officers drop off our packages usually on Friday. I recognize Dana's email packet comes out on Thursday, I want to say.
I try to get your packets out on Thursday, because that's what we voted on before. These last couple of months, we have run into a lot of last minute issues. That's why they've been coming out on Friday. My intent is to take them back to being delivered on Thursday. That is my intent.
I think that would be a solution, because, I mean,
And
we.
I know we've always asked this question
Yep.
and that's always been the issue, getting what happened in the prior meeting assembled for the next meeting, but before that can be done, you've got to go through the tapes, generate the minutes. Yeah, we understand. I mean, unfortunately, Angelina, it's sort of how it's always been. I guess if anything, what you're mentioning, I mean, the weekend before your council meeting is just be prepared. That's what you got to do. But your issue is being able to communicate with staff.
Yeah.
So, one, if you get an opportunity to look at on Thursday night, what comes out, I guess if anything, other than we've traditionally had legal on a Monday, but, I mean, it does pushing it to Friday or Thursday of the week before at least give you the weekend to do anything you want to put together, or at least give you Friday and Monday so that there's a chance where, I mean, again, if we start the process 2 days earlier, then does Friday become Wednesday? But that's about it, but we would have to get off of Monday. To keep it on Monday, no. To have it the third.
This last 2 months has been because of the holidays, and we had 3 meetings for this one.
Right.
So that's how, and plus we also had planning the same week too, so I have to get their
Right.
stuff out at the same time.
So
Normally, I get it out on Thursday, because I like to get it out Thursday, because that gives you all day of Friday to review. If you have questions, then you can reach out to us. I agree, you need more time to review.
So I think that moving legal and moving that time, cutting down on the amount of time that I have to respond and taking it down to a week and a half, 2 weeks between meetings is gonna slow down the eventual process of government, because I'm gonna be able to accomplish less. I think that what might be a good starting point is shooting back for that Thursday, and then let's see where we're at with that Thursday and see if maybe we can even bump it up, eventually get in a good groove and bump it up to the Wednesday before. But it is common in other municipalities, I can say, where I've worked, where you're always in this agenda crunch right at the last minute, and that it is typical that agendas get distributed Friday before a Monday meeting. So I think if it works, maybe we start on a Thursday and start prepping then, and then try and get that in a good vibe, and then maybe we can move it to a Wednesday, once we're.
And
done with
respectfully,
that.
I think there's a learning curve here that, obviously, newer members of the council have to go through. A lot of this is, things that are based on historical practices. That additional day may be a solution, but also the experience that you're going to have as you go through the process is going to help too.
Yeah, no, but the point of the communication, the question and answer with Meg is what I think you're more concerned about, not
Yeah.
whether there's
I
enough
don't
time
want
to
to
read
tie up
everything.
your Monday morning when you have a council meeting, to answer my questions.
Well, I know, but that's part of the process, I mean.
Well, I think the lowest
Friday.
hanging fruit right now is just
Thursdays.
relying on Thursday. Let's do that. If we need to make adjustments, we revisit the
Yep,
conversation.
and that would at least give you one full working day where we could connect and get anything adjusted. So we'll start working on that as staff, getting that stuff out on Thursdays, and kind of go from there on that.
Okay, anybody else?
Very briefly, just pleased to report that one of my first duties as a trustee here, I met with Chris Braun over at Next in Birmingham just this afternoon. Meg was kind enough to join me. This is in my capacity as co-liaison along with Michael. And Michael was kind enough to fill me in, not only with a phone call over the weekend, but to share an episode of The Franklin Show, which was also very informative on the topic and entertaining as well. As I think everyone knows, there's an ongoing issue there with the facility involving the Birmingham Y, and that's going to be a big ongoing project, but just I'm pleased to say for now that I'm getting acclimated over there, and there'll be more to report going forward.
That's great.
Yeah, and I definitely know what's going on, and they definitely are looking for more money, so we are definitely gonna rely on you guys to
Yeah.
help us best understand everything about Next and the value the village is getting out of it in relation to some future decisions we're gonna have to make regarding the economics of it.
Great.
Yeah, so Mike, thanks for helping Dan there.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Anybody else? All right, Meg.
All right, so the last month or so included a holiday, 3 special meetings. We were busy, to say the least, over here. Next was one of the first things that I was going to talk about as they progress on this path. On Monday, I met with the administrators and city managers from Birmingham, from Beverly Hills, from Bingham Farms, and myself to discuss our interlocal agreement and sort of frame the issue and opportunity, I guess, that are going to be offered with the new Next building. So more to communicate on that as soon as it becomes more public, but I've been keeping our liaisons really tied into that, and do think it would be beneficial at some point, not our February meeting, after that, to have Chris Braun come back and just talk about Next. She was here the other night, but we had so much going on. It was a really long meeting, and she could talk a little bit more specifically about the project, because that's really what we need to be focused on, is this new building. And we didn't get to hear a lot about that the other night. So we have been busy in the last month finalizing the audit, working with Plant Moran, getting everything filed with the state. Tonight, you'll see on your agenda that you'll need to name me as the new road administrator. That is really just a formal resolution that needs to happen every once in a while, and it's time to switch that over. But that came about when we were finalizing the audit here. We underwent our S&P audit, which is the village credit score, and so we've been working on that over here. We've been onboarding new members. I've had a great opportunity to meet with Dan, kind of get him caught up there. We were over at Next today, so trying to do everything there. I really am going to work on getting all of our new members onboarded. So I'm going to you'll see come to your email a series of, I'm calling it like new council member boot camp, but we'll have you sit and meet with Plant Moran and ask questions about that in the budgeting cycle. We'll have you sit and talk to HRC as far as engineering. What do they provide for the village? What is their service? What have they been doing with us? What are their current projects? I think that these little extra meetings, I know it takes your time, but I think that it helps you get kind of caught up to speed with where we're at on certain council items. It gives you an opportunity to also ask questions that you might not feel that comfortable asking from the table. Maybe it's something that others know, or so I think that these can be really beneficial, this little boot camp, and I'll send out emails for that. We have a couple of our new members who have registered for the MML training. We've got Abby and Angelina signed up for that. So again, that's a great training, and I'm really happy to see that. Trash complaints have picked back up again. They went down for a while and they're back up. So there's been, a number of issues. Obviously, with the merging of this trash contract here, where Priority was taking over, they took over 1 million houses. So to some extent, growing pains are expected. Here in Franklin, it's my understanding that we underwent a transition in who the route manager was for Franklin. And so if you experience some issues in the last few weeks, it's probably due to that. We've been in contact with Priority. We're working out those bugs. But I would ask our residents to continue to call the office when they have problems or they notice their trash is missed. I won't see your trash unless you call me and tell me. And unfortunately, the last few weeks, it's been, an entire road that's been missed, or a series of houses. So I take that very seriously. So does my staff. I can definitely attest to the fact that we're all over it. So please feel comfortable calling and letting us know when that happens. We're keeping track of it. A lot of this is growing pains, and I do expect it to even out. Lastly, I would say is something just everyone should be aware of. The police contract is up for negotiation. The negotiations begin on Wednesday, and they'll continue through the beginning of February. Hopefully, we'll be able to get to a good place, and I can bring back an agreement to be looked at council, but that's definitely something that's been taking my personal time and resources in order to prep and be ready to go on that.
With regard to priority.
Yeah.
So I noticed a couple weeks ago probably that our trash was picked up around 5 or 5:30. So what would be your recommendation for anybody who's watching or reading the minutes about when's an appropriate time to reach out to the village to provide notice? Because I, at 4 PM, was like, I wonder if they missed our road. I don't think they ended up missing it. It was just delayed, but should they wait till the next day, or what would be your recommendation?
I would say go ahead and call us right away.
Okay.
You're supposed to be picked up in the morning. If you're not picked up in the morning, give us a call. It is possible that, they're behind and they are gonna get to you, but from my perspective, it doesn't hurt for us to reach out and just be like, hey, what's going on? Or, things happen. Trucks break down, we have to use a different truck, we have to bring in somebody else. But it's really, it starts with the resident giving us a call that even allow us to open the conversation and figure out what's going on. And because priority has been such a transition in moving over there, we're really focused on our resident feedback from there. So if you're noticing anything strange with your trash, yours or your whole streets, please give us a call and we'll see what we can do about it.
What issues have we? What I ask for people to do is to call, if you don't see your trash being picked up by 4 o'clock, let us know. That gives us enough time to reach out to priority before the end of the day.
Okay.
That way, even if they can tell us, well, we had a machine breakdown, then we can then shoot back and say, leave it out, they'll get it the next day.
Okay.
Aside from delays in pickup, are there any other issues residents should be aware of?
No, everything else has just been adjusting to the new trucks, but just missed pickups is what I'm noticing the most of.
Is the police contract that's being negotiated the one with Bingham, or is it the one with the police union?
It's between the village and our police department,
Oh,
both
okay.
our command officers and our regular officers over there. Once that's negotiated and set in, then we negotiate with Bingham Farms, but it's my understanding, and Peter can correct me if I'm wrong, that typically takes place closer to budget season in the spring, so like April, May time period, and that's intentional so that we have figures for what we're going in over here. Now, in order to sort of tee us up for that second conversation, I've invited Ken Martin from Bingham Farms, the administrator, to join us in these first negotiations. Ken is really playing just a role as an observer. He isn't there to influence the negotiation at all, but I think that it's important to provide some perspective for him, some of the discussions that were had during this point for when we go to edit or request more funds. Inevitably, we're gonna end up requesting more funds from both Bingham Farms. We're gonna end up paying more. And I think it's important that Ken at least is privy to those conversations before we get to that point.
Yeah.
So it is a very collaborative negotiation, something that we haven't really seen in the past necessarily. They've been done in different ways. I think with Chief being new over there, I'm new, and just the whole process that we're going is really by the book, and we're gonna have a really collaborative negotiation, and I'm hoping for some really healthy conversation there, and I'll be able to bring back sort of the status of where I'm at in our February meeting, if not a contract, if we can come to some terms.
I think that's a great idea to like socialize Ken prior to the negotiation with Bingham Farms, so.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Very good.
Stuart, good evening.
Good evening, Happy New Year. And are you going to be poaching more of planning commissioners? I think 3 of you have previously served on planning, so I know it's a good group that's up there. Well, this month we will be having a public hearing on Wednesday with regards to open burn ordinance. We welcome the public. Thank you for your comments about the pathways that we're considering. Please come to our meeting, discuss it with us. The conversation of the pathways comes about because of communication with our neighbors. So people that are for it and people that have other concerns about it, it's worth the discussion, being part of the discussion. So please be there. Also, this month or Wednesday, we were talking about the update of our cellular service ordinance. I know that last month we came to you with a first reading. We pushed it back to planning so that we could review some more of the feedback that was given from Extent with regards to some concerns that we had in our ordinance. So we'll be reviewing that on this week as well. The those are the main topics, the main points that we'll be bringing up on this month. And any questions or comments for me? So, yes.
So there were 2 comments about sidewalks during public comment. Is there a plan floating around that?
If there is, I'd like to see it.
Okay, because I haven't known it either,
Yeah,
just
I was
because
curious
I'm on
about
the
that too
sidewalk.
myself.
I think me, Abby, and Dan are, and we haven't met yet.
Yeah.
So if there was a plan, we'd like to see it.
So the only thing that we've identified in the past is areas where we could have improved walkability within the village.
Okay.
And that's more of an understanding of, okay, if someone was to live along 13 Mile and wanted to walk to downtown Franklin and not walk along 13 Mile to get there, would that be a hindrance for them? What path would be possible for them? Or someone that lives along Inkster that would like to come downtown, is there a path for them to be able to make it through without walking along Inkster, because you have the big ditch, and then you have the guardrail, and you have to walk past that? So it's just more of an identification of areas that could be improved from a walkability standpoint.
And that's what you kind of delivered like 2 years ago-ish, right?
Several years ago.
Okay.
It's been it's a topic that comes about every periodic
Okay.
time period, every now and then. The challenge with pathways is, one, funding. It tends to be expensive. If we reach out to grant money, then we need to meet certain compliances, but also there's opportunities now with regards to getting grant money for walkability. It's a big issue for Oakland County. They're doing a lot of funding, so we might be able to get funding to help with that from Oakland County. But there's also concerns with easements from our neighbors. At Franklin Village, we used to have a school that was a community school. We do it where the public would walk through neighbors' yards to get to school. And it was very common for people to have paths that really don't exist anymore, where neighbors were kind enough to let school-age children walk to school. We don't have that opportunity anymore because I think West Maple is the public school for everyone in Franklin. So some of the walkability that our youth used to take in the winter, maybe 20, 30 years ago, no longer exist. So that's one of the challenges. And there's some things we can consider with regards to rules and regulations about use of the pathways at nighttime. And there's things that we can discuss that would hopefully help with safety and concerns. Yeah.
I will say, and I don't have all the facts on this, that I'm pretty sure a resident initiated a survey about pathways that did go out. I don't know how it was distributed. I don't know which homes got it. I don't have any of the details. I was kind of heard of this secondhand. It's something that needs to be, talked about at planning, because obviously, anything that would be distributed to residents needs, or I would say, council approval for that. I would at least need to know what's going on with that. It'd have to be from a vote of planning. None of those things took place. So I should have more to report on that after our next planning commission meeting, but I'm guessing that the chatter and or maybe residents receiving that information is what has kind of sparked this pathway conversation.
I appreciate the comments. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Give us a sec, when he's done, give us 1 second. Oh, go ahead, finish up.
No,
I just didn't
go
want to
ahead.
miss anything.
No.
So, yeah, that, and I think we'll have one of these gentlemen come up. When both of these gentlemen spoke earlier, they referenced something, and I was a little confused by that. The only thing I'm aware of is the HRC report from several years ago, which planning has bantered about for a
I
couple
just
years
became
and
a-
narrowed down to only 1 or 2 or 3 potential opportunities, which to this date haven't really gone.
I just became aware of this potential distribution of some information on Thursday afternoon. Again, I haven't seen it.
All right, well,
I
so
don't
let's,
know, put it out.
if one of you gentlemen received whatever it is, please come up if you could. Stuart, are you all done?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
I'll
Appreciate it.
stay around just because I'm curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't remember exactly what it was, because the holidays sort of were a blur. But I think sometime in November or December, I received a postcard in the mail from, I don't know who, I don't remember, I don't have the card anymore, a female who lives on South Cromwell. My impression was that it was from somebody on the planning committee.
Was it Sarah?
Sarah. Would have been from Sarah.
And so this postcard had a description of connecting the neighborhoods and so forth, and there was a QR code that I scanned to open a survey online, pretty detailed survey. There were about 20 questions or so on the survey. Kind of concerns me that there was so much information put in the survey because it seems to have caused sort of an uproar unnecessarily. But it talked about, this survey had a question about what impediments would I see to pathways, including easements on private property and so forth. Would I support an easement on my property and so forth? So I thought, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
You know, and so that also explains why I've been looking at videos of all these meetings over the last few meetings to find more information about what's going on about this topic. And there's really nothing out there. So that's why I was here today to say what I said.
We appreciate you coming. We didn't know what was going
No.
on.
I mean,
thank you
it sounded
for
like it
sharing
was
that
a
with us.
project that was getting done and, you know, and one of, this survey had a map, I'm sorry to be rambling, but the survey had a map of all of Franklin with 5 circles on different neighborhoods to connect, where these connections would be made. And there's a circle right over my house, you know?
Jeez, I'm sorry. Wow.
Go ahead, David.
I can talk to this if you like, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go.
So the map that you saw, probably, I'm assuming, I didn't actually see it, but if it's the map that we've been distributing and planning, it's the one that was identified of locations that would improve connectivity. But obviously, the question would have to be is, would someone be willing to allow an easement, like back in the day when people would allow their kids to walk through their neighbor's yard? But nothing can be done in that regard, and there's no intent from planning. We have no power to do so for eminent domain for regards to pathways or any of that. This is more of this is how you would connect. These are ways that were identified how improvement of connection could be done, but it's not an action plan.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, and that's,
Okay.
it's definitely an issue, so I'd like to take this moment to publicly state that if you did receive this survey or this postcard, which has come out, it did not come from the village in an official capacity, it didn't even come from your planning commission in an official capacity. It is definitely discussing pathways that have been potentially projects in the future, but that wasn't something that was even ran by village administration nor voted on by a planning commission board. It seems to be that was an individual resident's decision to go ahead and put that out, hence maybe some of the confusion and why there isn't a lot of backup material and those type of things. You know, I will take the position that any time that you're contacted on an official capacity, I would hope that at the minimum, the administration is informed of that. So I apologize that this survey was distributed. I will say that I had absolutely no knowledge of it and that it was not an administrative action or an action of planning commission, but that of an individual. So we'll be having those conversations. And I absolutely understand the confusion because it is my understanding that it was presented in sort of an official capacity that looked as though it could have been from either the planning commission or from my council or myself, and it wasn't.
Well, we have to go through legal for official surveys like that anyway.
Right, so that's
it's not something we can do.
the problem.
And an individual can probably send an email out to anyone or send a survey on their own, just not under the auspice of the village without.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, so again, kind of the history of it is previously there was a small subcommittee from council that was evaluating pathways. Well, let me back up even further. So it originally started with the planning commission years ago, and then was picked back up as a small subcommittee on pathways by council, but we figured just based off of having additional resources on the planning commission from an advisor standpoint that it would make sense to go back there to have the commitment of time. However, through this new council, we now have the infrastructure committee that can appropriately evaluate it. So my recommendation, I don't know how others feel on council, is that we pause the planning commission to regather what information do we actually know, hand it to the infrastructure committee, and then they can come back with more conversation for us to discuss to provide direction to the planning commission.
I think that it, from my perspective, could be really healthy to sort of pull the pathway project back and recenter in council and give some clearer objectives to planning. Because right now, they've been working really hard on doing a lot of research on pathways. They're very passionate about that. But there is a little bit of a disconnect between council and planning in that regard. I do think it's an important project to look at as something in the village, and I think that the infrastructure committee that we established could be a great place to kind of pull that back under this administration arm before it's given back out. That's just my opinion.
No problem.
Yeah, that's fine. I actually had one more point that I overlooked to make, and since we haven't moved on, I'd appreciate if I could. One of the things that I've noticed in communication with villagers over the last several months is that there's 3 ordinances that kind of, there's confusion with regards to the building department and how the ordinance should be executed. One of them is lighting, neighbors lighting. The other one is fence structures, and how fences should be implemented. One of the reasons why the historic district, we had to reconsider things for the historic district, and also the burn ordinance. In the past, before my time on planning, the building official would actually attend planning commission meetings and help provide input on ordinances as they are being developed. In recent history, we've received memos periodically as an ordinance becomes closer to completion. The building official would then send a memo asking for clarification on an ordinance, because ultimately he will or they will help the code enforcer make a ruling on an ordinance that might be a violation. So this being said, one of the reasons, since the building official is able to attend the historic commission periodically, I would like the council to consider funding to allow the building official to, as we wrap up an ordinance or get close to wrapping up an ordinance before the public hearing, have him show up to our meeting and provide active input and more than just a memo to McKenna that we would then respond to. It would speed up the process of our ordinances, plus it would help the building official understand the intent behind the ordinance, not just the wording of the ordinance. And since ultimately the enforcement will go through that department, there needs to be some clarification, because I've had villagers that I know that call me periodically where the code enforcer says, well, you should just put up a fence, and well, there's no clearance for a 10-foot fence for them to have shielding from the light of their neighbor that they put up that shines in their master bedroom, or they're up on a hill and you can't build a fence tall enough to protect against that. Or with regards to the bonfires that we had, saying, oh, it's okay because it's a bonfire that no one's attending, but it's not a violation because they don't need a pull permit because it was a bonfire that no one was there for. So there's confusion going on between how ordinances are implemented and how they're worded, and I'd like to have some clarity, and I think it makes a lot of sense for us to actually have the person implementing it or enforcing the code to be able to be part of the process, part of the discussion. So that would require funding from council to make that decision to help pay for them to attend our meeting. So I know I'm bringing this up. I've not talked to planning about this, but it's been a growing concern over the last several months as I've heard feedback and concerns. And it would help clarify a lot of concerns that people are having with regards to the feedback they're getting with regards to how an ordinance should be implemented, or enforced.
My only comment on that is, before you come to us to worry about the economics of it, you should probably check with Bill and see what his availability is on Wednesday nights or the Wednesdays of your meetings. I can't imagine that you need him there for every meeting.
No. And that's not what we're doing.
And I assume that typically you guys do run drafts of the ordinances through administration or through the building department, but yeah, I mean, I don't think you really need a specific request. If you need Bill to be there for an hour or two at a meeting, once you're at a critical point, and just ask him to be at the meeting.
Okay.
I agree with that direction too, and it's my understanding that before it used to operate like that, and then there was a kind of a clearing line in the sand that Bill wasn't gonna attend those anymore. The examples that Stuart listed are just a few. We have a lot of issues with the way that ordinance are actually drafted versus how they're implemented. I can see the value of Bill coming in prior to a public hearing, when we're like at our final discussion period. And the difference is before he used to attend all the planning commissions and we stopped that. So that's not even what Stuart's asking for here. I think that it's appropriate to have Bill step in every once in a while at the right time to review an ordinance. That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Question, it seems to me that part of the circulation of a draft ordinance, when it went to the attorney, also went to the building department. Anybody that needed to have eyes on it before it got to a public, is that happening, do you think?
That does happen, but like as Stuart attested, it's just this memo
Like
that
just
goes
memo,
through,
right.
so it's still.
The memo, he wants a
It's
communication.
still not good
Okay.
communication, you know, and we're already behind because Bill's just not there. I think
Yeah.
we could eliminate that by, you know, being conservative of whether or not he attends planning, but making sure he's there before these ordinances reach that
I
point.
I mean, it's just like dialogue with the public. I love getting emails from people and being able to reply back to them. But it's much better if we can have an open dialogue, because then we can understand more of the context of their question. He can understand more of the context of where the ordinance came from. I mean, it's the same dialogue you would like to have with regards to planning and how you liaison with us, so you can better support us with council. So it's, I think that's really where it's coming from. So,
I agree with that.
No.
Susan, Main Street.
So good evening. So we don't have a ton to report tonight. Angelina, I know you'll be our new rep, so we look forward to working with you. And if you have any questions, feel free to come talk to me beforehand.
I got the packet, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we look forward to working with you. We will be doing accreditation. That'll be coming up in February, so we'll talk about that some more. Meg and I are going to be working on the work plan with Jeremy as well from the board. So just moving forward, I have a lot of ideas, plans that we want to move forward and get going, economic development, all of that. So excited to do all of that. We're excited to work with you.
Thank you.
So the next meeting, we will be planning out our events and all of that kind of stuff too for the next year. And I will have a report for you guys next meeting.
Sounds good.
All right?
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do. Do you have any, I know that the Village Boutique moved out.
Unfortunately.
Do you have as you're tracking kind of the movement of businesses in and out of the village, do you have any comments for us about some of the activity that's?
I am trying to set up a meeting with the owner of that, the plaza itself, and try to find out what's going on with some of that some more, but yeah.
Yeah, there is new ownership. so-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the new ownership, and I know there was some disagreements with the lease there, so.
Oh,
Sorry, when was there a new owner for that building? Is this
Oh, my gosh.
recent
since
or?
Maria? Or,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Maria's gone, been
Maria's
gone
sold-
probably 8,
Maria's
9 months
sold
at
to a
least.
relative.
I guess 6, but yeah, it could be.
And
it
the
could be much
relative
later.
is operating very similarly.
Yes.
okay,
And I'm trying to get a meeting going there with her so I can
got it.
dig
Okay.
more into what the heck is going on.
And I saw what looked like productive work at the Van Avery building.
Yes,
drove
that is
in.
coming along really well. They have gone before HDC. I think they're going to be coming again for some other stuff, but that's going along finally really, really well. So I know a couple of people that are looking to go into that, so.
Wonderful. And will Mr. Farner hold a soft opening with locals when the restaurant's ready to go?
Yeah, that is going to be the plan. Hopefully sometime in February. They're hoping to be open by March, so,
Okay.
yeah.
That's really
I was
great. I
expecting
mean,
later than that, so that would be wonderful.
I think
So-
a village party would be very good.
No, I agree. I agree. So definitely, we all second, third that one.
Great way to build relationships.
No, I agree. I agree. So,
And great cafes. like
There's something
this is all-
unsavory about us all getting free appetizers and stuff like that. I don't know.
and the gray dog is just, it's coming along. I had a couple of meetings on that, so I'm going to have another meeting hopefully tomorrow about that, so.
All right, that's great. Thank you for the update. That's
Thank
great.
you. All right, before we go on to old business, I just want to make a statement to everyone out there listening, to remind everybody that we do currently have openings on Planning Commission and on the Zoning Board of Appeals, right. So anybody that is interested, please get in touch with administration, get a hold of the application. We would like to start getting those reviewed and hopefully be in a position to maybe start filling some seats in February. So anybody that's interested, now that the holidays are over, please get your information in.
Yep.
Particularly those who have even applied in the past. Keep letting us know that you're interested.
Is there a close date on that? Just so, no. It's
There-
rolling.
No close date so far. So the first thing, if we want to talk planning, I think it's important that it's announced during a planning commission meeting, since the body meets pretty regularly, that there are open seats. So there are currently 2 open seats on planning. We've received some applications at our meeting on Wednesday. We'll discuss that, and I would hope we'll get some applications to start considering by their by their February meeting. ZBA's openings, is it Zings? Do we have 2 on ZBA as well?
We have 2 on CBA.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything about planning.
So those are open, they have remained open. Once we receive, more than 1 candidate, we'll start moving that along that process there. All that information's online, it's right on our homepage, and if you have any questions, you can contact us at the office, and we can give you all the information you need.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to old business. I don't think unless anyone think we're ready to, but Meg gave us, I think it's written here as a code of ethics, but I think the proper term is actually a code of conduct.
Okay.
Ethics being a section of it. But this was circulated, I want to say 2 months ago. I don't know if everybody got a chance to look at it at that time. We never have had it as a discussion point at one of our meetings. So I really want to use today just as an opportunity for anybody that has comments, whether it's about the context of it, whether it's just as simple as typographical. But let's go through the concept of a code of conduct for the council to operate under. All these things kind of are already in place for us, but it's nice, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
But it's nice to have something in a codified manner that just kind of reminds us of our duties here. So, Mag, if you want
Yeah.
to take a second and
I'll,
explain what you've got here and what your anticipation is.
It's, what you have in front of you is a first rough draft, and just like David said, and to Angelina's point earlier, there are definitely some areas that individual council members have given me feedback. It was just too late it was over the weekend, so it couldn't be incorporated in tonight's meeting. So I think it's important that we don't vote on this tonight, and that we just listen to feedback and get it updated and get it ready then. This is a council document. It's very common. Almost every council I've ever worked with has had one. It just helps outline basically a bunch of information that's located across various documents. A lot of this is outlined in our charter or possibly in an ordinance, but it's a nice spot to put it all together. It shows the public that we have a code of conduct that we're going to adhere to. It is an entirely council document. It is not an administrative document whatsoever, so it's up to the council about what they'd want to put in it, how they'd want to handle things, within reason to charter and ordinance there. So what I prepared for you here is pretty standard code of conduct. I use boilerplate information, things that I would typically see. Definitely open for feedback towards it, and council should feel free to make this document your own. It is yours. I think tonight would be premature to pass a resolution on it, but hopefully we're trucking in that area there.
So I'm going to just go around to each of us. If anybody has questions or comments on it, go ahead and let's get that out now. If it's something that you think that Meg should reconsider or, reconsider the way it's written, let's get that out there. If it's just general questions as to any particular item here that we think we should discuss, and then, maybe by next month, we'll be in a position to bring it back and officially adopt it. Like you said, majority of this is already in our general common law, in our charter, in Robert's Rules of Order, in the Open Meetings Act, in just general understanding of being an elected official. So if anyone has questions or comments, Abby, I'll start with you. You have anything from your review?
I mean, it does seem pretty standard language, so I don't have a ton to add, with the exception of the gift section and, accepting any gifts from individuals or organizations, and it's just in the daily course of our lives and being a tight-knit community. In fact, I talked about this with Angelina. You know, like, how does that play into conduct, and, you know, ensuring that we're not running afoul of our duties as elected officials. So maybe firming up the language there to be, maybe we're just after the holidays, so it's the season of gift giving, but yeah, just making sure that we're well understood on what that actually means.
And I would be open for drafting feedback. So like if you'd like that language tightened up, if you had language you wanted to give to me, because again, this council document, I've just basically provided the bones to lay it out. So absolutely open if you have some suggestions of actual language you'd like included.
Sounds good.
Thank you. I think this is an interesting section because we did have a conflict last year in the
Yes.
village council. A council person funded a lunch for a state representative. It was a community, an invited lunch. And I wonder how you would see, I think that caused some discomfort on the council. I don't know that we ever actually resolved to handle those kinds of things in another way, but it struck me that the gift section, where do we want to extend that? Is it proper for a village council person to host a luncheon where the village would pay for a luncheon?
Unless it's open to the public and that's not just hosting it and then saying, well, anyone could have come. Unless it is
Yeah.
open to the public
Okay.
and made public information, we should not as a government be buying food or drinks for anything.
That would be a suggestion that this would be a great place to sharpen up some language so that we can avoid that kind of situation again.
Yeah, and I think that actually falls more under, which is a very,
Prohibited
once,
conduct, probably.
well, use of public resources.
Okay.
So, that would probably be where that fell under, and in this document, it is probably one of the least addressed. It's just got one simple bullet point.
Yeah.
So if anything, maybe consider some additional, whether it's example or a little more edification on, you know, this comment is pretty obvious where you shouldn't be using something for personal gain, but it should only be for quote-unquote village business. I think the instance you're talking about, and it became conjecture on our board, and I think we did resolve it in one way, was the act official village business?
Right.
Or was it something that individual trustee wanted to do, but really wasn't doing it in an official capacity, being that it wasn't announced and we weren't all invited, and if we were invited, we didn't know we were invited. I think that became the consternation. So,
Agree.
I think that's the area, and less so using resources, because it's not that easy to use our resources. You'd have to use your own resources and then seek reimbursement.
Yes.
And before you're doing that, I think you should make sure, whether you've run it by, probably run it by council, that you wanted to do something like this, and to make sure that it's being done under the guise of official village business. And most official village business doesn't take place unless a majority of this council has ratified that act. So,
So maybe some procedures around
Yeah,
like
so-
an expense policy or
And-
request or approval or
yeah.
things like that.
is-
Like a teeny policy as
Where,
well.
where's the line drawn
So we're asking
between?
for a different policy
I
than
think it's a
here.
procedure
I think,
addressing.
a better in-depth look into this concept of using public resources and hosting events for third parties when it's not clear whether you're doing it as an individual or whether you're doing it in the capacity of
So can I just-
an elected official.
Sorry, can I make a real quick recommendation that for the code of conduct, we keep it at a higher level and
Yeah.
outside of procedures, and then you'd have you'd have the procedures that capture the spirit and the process of.
I
what's
agree with
happening.
that.
That's what I'm thinking too. So I think that I hear this feedback and I will incorporate it appropriately into the code of conduct draft, but then I think what needs to accompany is some sort of spending and expense procedure, which would be a separate document, but I could get
So
that
I agree.
drafted
There-
to
There's two
run in
pieces there.
conjunction.
There's the, when can you just feel like you can spend money on behalf of the village and anticipate reimbursement? The other is, when are you doing something which is in the official capacity of the village?
Yes.
And have an understanding of, before you can go out and claim that you're doing something in the capacity of the village,
You need
that has to
approval.
be ratified by this body.
Yes. And I think that's something that I could, we can incorporate feedback into the code of conduct here, absolutely. But then I also think that I can draft some sort of procedure that would help outline that by the next meeting too, so. My
Yeah,
question.
go ahead, Angelina.
Oh, I have a comment, but I'm gonna wait.
You have any more? Oh, let's go to you next. Oh, okay. Hello, sir.
For those of you who don't know me, Rick David on Wellington Road. In my past life, I've been involved in preparing professional ethics and guidelines and for conduct for major organizations. And it's a great document to put together, but what happens if one of you should inadvertently or intentionally violate that code?
It's in the code of conduct with that it would be up to the council.
Well, exactly. That's my point. I mean, you go through this process, we all want to do the right thing, and it's a great step to have that in place, but there's really no teeth to, it's a public reprimand. You
You
know,
can be censured, which is a public reprimand from this council.
About all we can do, I think.
Basically,
that's
all we
what
can
we
do.
did
I mean,
in
we're not in a
this case.
capacity to remove
I
somebody.
agree.
Yeah,
And it just, maybe that might be
I mean,
more,
if you read the document, it's pretty clear. There's a couple choices. You could refer it to legal authorities if an
Well, it's in the
illegal
back-
act has
back
taken
page
place.
talks about what
Yeah,
to do. It just,
takes place
you
at
know.
the beginning. But that's really all that we can do. We can't just say, hey, you're now off council. We don't have that capacity.
I'm not asking for that, but just bear that in mind, that it's important to have this kind of document, but to go really deep into it without any kind of teeth to it, you want to set the overall tone, keep it at the high, someone say at the high level, it should be, you want to do the right thing.
Rick, it's only happened once, as far as I can recall, in the entire history of this. And we did censure the trustee, and the trustee was required to reimburse the village for the expense. And I don't think anybody here would ever consider doing it. And I think, but your point is well taken. We can't remove somebody from council because we're elected by the public.
But I think you said something really valuable, which is, and I'm not sure that it's strong enough in here yet, but it's about setting an expectation of high standards of behavior and acknowledging that we're all coming into this as village stewards. And that's, and the community has recognized that by electing us to office. And just set that tone, because you're right, this shouldn't be a punitive document.
I guess I would need feedback, because I feel like I have kind of tapped out. It's a very fine line what we're talking about here, especially as it's relation to your code of ethics and me. So I think that I have to be careful, because how can we actually enforce this? You have to default back to the charter, and this is just a suggestion. It is a topic, surface level, document to sort of bring that together. So if there is, more that you would like there about stewardship or something, that would be a great spot to give me specific language of what you're looking
So
for.
I'll give you a sentence or two just to throw in
Yep.
where you think, and I'll write that. To me, public humiliation is far worse than getting a call from one of our officers. Really.
And we're good at that. You don't know the specifics, I don't think, of this particular issue.
I actually did.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, fine.
So actually, Meg has this in a Word document, so I gave her probably like 6 pages of comments, and track changes, which is, again, why there isn't enough time between receipt and meeting. But, high level, you know, this would be very hard for us to follow, because we have personal relationships with people in this village that come before this board. So, just as an example, right, the Franklin Baseball Association is coming in before us for a CDBG. 6 of us have a personal relationship with that, and we mentioned that, and then we voted for them. You know, so like, that is our personal relationship being used to give or to influence an official decision. And so those are things that, because of our small and tight-knit community, are really hard to separate. For example, we had a holiday party at one of the village businesses. We have a relationship with this person, you know, prior to us coming on council. As a favor, we rented the space, you know, like that would have to be disclosed. Like, we could not accept it as a favor. I've gotten a gift from my dentist who's downtown. You know, like, these are things that happen, and probably the reason we got elected is because we have a relationship with businesses and vendors and neighbors that come before us and ask for things.
You got a
And-
gift from your dentist? My dentist does not give me gifts.
I don't even want to like promote her because, you know.
A little bag with floss and stuff in it? I mean,
Well,
I get
like-
that from my dentist too. I don't-
And so I took a different approach. Like, when I told Meg, I was like, I honestly think this should be like a single page. I love my dentist, everyone. But a single page, like,
Gee, I wonder which
15
one.
15 bullets, and just like very broad, like, you shall not accept a gift that you otherwise would not have received but for your official position. That's really what it misses in here. It's but for your official position. Because, like, I mean.
Do we really, I mean,
Angela, I think
do
you're
we
reading a
need
little
to
too
do
far
this?
into this. I don't take out of this document what you're referencing as having taken place. The first and foremost is that you're not doing it for your own benefit.
That's not in
And you're-
here. It doesn't say. It says council members shall not directly or indirectly accept gifts, favors, or other benefits from any individual or organization doing business with the village.
and every time we walk into Terry Cooper's place, my wife and
Okay,
I,
the following are not considered prohibited gifts under this policy. Gifts of nominal value, promotional items, meals or refreshments where the member's attendance is part of their official duties, gifts received on behalf of the village. So, you're saying that you went to a local business and they gave you a deal? And I'm following what, like, I'm not following what you're
Yeah, I mean,
saying.
there's instances of that, and then there's instances of, you know, like, for example, I mean, honestly, when I read this, I won from the Oktoberfest a gift certificate to a couple local businesses. That is a gift indirectly that I received for personal use from a business in Franklin. And all I'm saying is that this can be weaponized.
But it also is supposed to be used for the purposes of influencing you in a decision.
So-
It wasn't
It doesn't
tied
say that.
into.
Real
a-
quick, can I make a
This is serious.
suggestion? Because we're gonna go back and forth on many of the provisions here, so I think what is best is that we keep all feedback to conceptual things and then keep actual edits to red lines that are provided back in Word. And the other thing that we need to establish is, how do we then bring all of those together? Because we each have our own thoughts about it and our own edits to it. And so how do we put it in a presentable position, or Meg into a position to bring something back to us to react to?
All right, so, and that's fine, but a prohibited gift is a council member shall not directly or indirectly accept gifts, favors, or other benefits from an individual or organization doing business with the village, not doing business in the village. So that would be.
Jerry Johnson.
Jerry Johnson.
You
Getting
guys-
Jerry to cut your house, to do your driveway for free, because you're a council member would be an unfair benefit. The fact that you did business with a business in the village, I don't believe that's what this is saying. And then the next one is seeking to influence a decision or action on the council. So unless that business was also seeking a permit at the same time that they gave you that gift, or was up for a license or a license renewal or something like that, there has to be a correlation between the action and the result. It can't just be in a vacuum, or that creates a conflict of interest. So, again, if you had a party at somewhere in the village and they gave you a discount because you're a village resident, that's not the same as doing it as, them doing it to influence you, or someone doing business with the village. That's different than doing business in the village.
I just don't. Say that vendor came to this council 2 months later, right?
Right,
But we didn't know about it.
I don't know how we could actually police this. Kokensparger cuts my lawn, Ruben pushes my snow. Does Ruben ever bill anybody for anything?
But
Regardless.
It's important to take the document what it's for, too. I mean, and this is just a code of conduct, and all communities have council members who are involved in their communities and
And
still.
own businesses in their
Yep.
community and all those
Yep.
other things.
And still adopt code of ethics. I mean, I think that it's abnormal that Franklin would operate without a code of ethics. I think that a lot of the language you see here is pulled directly from other governing documents that we have. But the purpose of this document is not to, outline and be able to take it to the bank and reinforce everything. It's just a code of conduct. And it's up to council. I've never seen a council that doesn't have one, but that doesn't mean you have to have one either. I mean, this is entirely your own document,
It is,
so.
as you said, you've never seen another community that hasn't operated with one. right?
Correct.
And we've not, for all these decades, had one. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't, I'm simply saying, why are we gonna spend a lot of time on this? If it's in our charter, if most of these things are in our charter, are we just spinning our wheels? Because I appreciate the legality aspects that Angelina and our other attorneys can bring to this, and then common sense from the rest of us and all of our experience. Unless we're looking to do gotcha stuff here, I don't know how you police it.
I agree with Mike, and one of my comments to you was like, then we add something that says like, in accordance with the charter, or in accordance with Michigan campaign finance laws, but we all are supposed to follow those anyway when we
Right,
run for
and
office,
that's,
so.
we're elected on the basis of our integrity and credibility.
And
I think we should allow that to stand.
I think if you looked at code of ethics across the board, that they look very familiar to this. They stay right out of the weeds. They don't really go into the enforceability. It's one organized place to sort of frame this idea of how council should respond. I absolutely hear the legal concerns. I think that is taking the document and giving it more power than it's supposed to have, but it's valid. It's up to you guys what you'd like to do. I think that I've seen them used in a lot of ways, and one of those ways is to communicate to the public that these are the things that you're going to stand by and what you're going to do. And I think that it sets that tone of transparency is another reason that you often see these in play in governments. I mean, I've never seen someone on the stand, going back to their code of conduct, but maybe those are concerns that we need to think about. I have no recommendation either way. I'm just saying that I've never operated with a council that didn't have one, and the intent is just to really create a high-level statement of this is what we stand by, but I absolutely see all the details and the logistics that play into that. So really, however council would like to move forward with that.
Well, again, that's why we're having a discussion. Angelina, if you've taken the time and effort to modify the document, if you can get it to us in a comparison capacity, so that we don't have to figure out what's new, I mean, I'd love to see your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, just quick, right, accountability. Members are accountable to the public and must be prepared to explain their decisions and actions transparently. well, you mean official decisions and actions. Like, you don't have to explain why you decide to, you know, plant this type of tree in front of your home. It doesn't say official. So, like, if someone wanted to use this as a weapon, they could.
Who's they? Who's the they in that sentence? It's only for
The
us.
public the public can hold us to, this is what this document is for, I believe, I don't know. But I think that the public, we will share this document with the public, and they can come here and say, you
And then-
violated this code of conduct, you violated this code of ethics.
And we have people coming here every month who scold members of this council for things that they disagree with. And this would be fodder for them.
Yes, that
And
is.
I see that as tremendously problematic because we've already had many experiences of these kinds of public scoldings in which
But-
we have to remain poised and non-responsive to, and I just think it opens up a
So-
whole,
Sorry.
that's, I
No, no,
mean, you
yeah.
get what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally, and I'm aligned with you as well, like, I
Yeah.
do have those concerns as well, but I think going back to my initial point, which is, I think we can have both, right? Like, I just think we need to get the red lines, like, I'm hearing the concerns, this is, here it's code of conduct drafting and guidelines, but, you know, this is standard legislative writing, right? So like, address your concerns, pass the red lines around, and then, like, I don't think that this is necessarily the forum for it. If you have a reason or an intent for an edit, include that within a comment within the red lines, so that we can apply the proper intent, but I don't think it's a good use of time for us to have a debate on language we haven't read yet.
So let's put together kind of a schedule for redlining about when we would need comments back by. We'll go ahead and Angelina's already started to track her comments, so we'll just keep that document going and moving. It's just gonna be important that we're all working off the same version of the document, so that's why I think maybe a schedule is important. Let me see what I can do administratively speaking to help this council be able to review and appropriately edit the document as they see fit, and then we'll take that back, in February.
And one conceptual thing, not with the language, is, do we only want it to apply to the council, or do we want it to apply to the boards and commissions as well?
I would think that would be separate. I typically see these as separate. I think your boards and commissions, from my perspective, need one as well, and I
Right.
think that there's a lot of overlap. But what I've seen before, especially as far as, is keeping them separate.
Okay.
But that's an excellent point, because I have not drafted one to propose to your boards and commissions, and I think that that's valuable. I probably would wait and see where we end up with our council one first, and then move from there, so they're very comparable, but yes, that's an excellent point.
Okay? Anybody else?
I just want to say you did a good job. I mean, you know, this is not easy to do, and thank you for pulling
Did you
this
create
together.
this?
Yes.
Okay. No,
Thank you.
and by the way, it's not, it's constructive.
Oh,
criticism.
absolutely. Again, this isn't my document, it's yours, so you have to be the ones
Okay.
that are comfortable with this. If this was an
Yeah, we're-
internal policy, we'd
We're
be
not
in
indicting
totally
you,
different.
we're just saying
field.
how
Nope.
complicated this sounds, and because we all do sit on so many subcommittees, that if I go to a next function and they serve us lunch, am I supposed to come here and remind everybody
Because
that?
anything under $50.
But
you
I'm
get
promoting
into.
Next, because I love Next, and everybody knows I love Next. And the FCA, if we have a catered affair, I mean, I think it's just
Yeah.
complicated.
That stuff doesn't apply, because there's a dollar threshold. But I hear what you're saying. I think that what we'll do is, I'll get you a schedule where you each have a time to review, and I'll ask that you just complete it and move it on, and we'll start with Angelina's comments, and I'll move that through. And then I'll go ahead and get you a red line version at your next meeting to go ahead and look at and see how we want to use the document.
I might revise mine, because I was rushing to get it to you by Friday.
Okay, I
If
won't
that's
send
o-
anything
If
out
that's just
until-
okay, because
Yes.
I can incorporate what they said, because I was thinking that too, to Mike's point. It says like, de minimis promotional, items such as, you know, things, but usually there's like $50, and just like that threshold wasn't in here, but, no, I mean, I think this is good, I just like want us to follow it, so I want it to be realistic. And when I see like she'll show no favoritism, I'm just thinking about how much favoritism shows the Franklin baseball
And
league.
we are all passionate about the things that we believe, and that's part of what we do. You know, I mean, so I can see where it would be muddy.
Muddy or money?
Muddy, because there will be money, and if somebody wants to use that against you, none of us are purchasable for the $25 that we get. I don't even, well,
All right,
you get it.
let's move on. We're obviously not, we've had our
Yeah.
comments on this. So you have a proposed communication plan that wasn't in here, and then you sent that email out. The Village of Franklin communication action items, is that what you're calling the,
No,
what's
there's
the?
a full okay, so that is the action items. There's a full communication plan. We all got it in November for our November meeting. The action items are just a backup there, but it was brought to our attention this morning when the agenda, when I got in this office this morning, that only the memo had made it into the packet. So there's a full communications plan. It was distributed previously, but I see here, these are the action items.
You sent it like before, the December meeting, and I
Yep.
had my notes on it, but I was gonna ask you to resend it, because I think it was in one of the binders that got thrown away.
And we can do that, we can table this and bring it back to, I mean, it is an administrative document, so I don't look for anything other than feedback from council on it. It is mine to develop and to implement as your administrator, so this isn't actually, something that requires any vote from you. But your feedback is important, because when I got over here, communication seemed to be the biggest thing on everyone's mind, and developing a communications plan was very important. Now, I did develop the entire communications plan. It's about 20 pages. What you have in front of you are the action items, which are derived from the communications plan. But it was back mostly to talk about budget implications. You know, I have this quite extensive communications plan that I brought forward before our December meeting, and what our budget implications gonna be for all the action items that I have there. And honestly, I think they're gonna be pretty low. Developing an app for the village would cost about $2,500, is the cheapest I can get that kind of bid out with someone who has a lot of experience. Other than that, most of our communications plan is stuff that we're doing internally, in-house, working with other community organizations, things like having, if you look through the action items, I think they're very important here, and it will lay out exactly what we're thinking, but developing a better brand, a clearer message, being more proactive. We are establishing Code Red, and we've gone through and talked about that a lot, and that is one of these action items to foster transparency. So many of the action items that you see before you do not have direct financial implications. There is some upgrading of the technology, and that we need to update our Zoom subscription and some technology there to allow for more remote participation, but the cost for that would be very minimal. But that would be something that would have a cost implication. Most of what you'll see, though, is just about getting our communications on one plan and having really some action items to focus on and move forward. Being that we don't have a communications department or any staff that are dedicated to that, I think it's really important that we have a comprehensive plan that we can sort of track how well we're communicating with the public, take metrics for what needs to improve, and sort of move on from there. So, as I look through this, I don't see anything that would be have large financial implications. I think it's a lot more organizational and from the administrative point of view.
So I was one that encouraged you to bring this back to the council.
Yep.
And I'll just speak to the work you have done, because I think several of us have probably read the communications plan, and I do agree with you. It's a working document for you and the team.
Yep.
And you've been clear, and I agree that we don't need to approve it. We will be approving expenditures proposal for expenditures as part of the budget process, so that's fine. What I'd like to say about the work that I've read is, I think that, I think the objectives that you've sent to increase awareness, to increase engagement, provide access to information, to enhance transparency by doing the people's business in front of the people, and to think about being credible, are the right objectives. I couldn't think of another one that I would propose to you in public or in private. And I'm fine leaving it there. What I wonder about is, how have you and the staff, you've reviewed this with the staff probably, what are they saying to you about your communications plan? And number two, is there anything that anyone here wants to say about what's made us happy or unhappy about communication in the village that we would like you to know about and that we should be talking about here at this table? That's as far as I need to go with this.
I think that's really great feedback. I'd love to hear what council has to say about communications. I will say I've been here for maybe 90 days now. I've heard a lot about communications. I've heard a lot from residents about communications. And so it's not that I don't have any context for that, but I would love to hear, maybe some specifics there. I think that as far as staff goes and when we're looking at this, it's a lot of little things that some of them are getting done, some of them weren't. And so to be able to see it in writing and have our path forward has been really helpful, especially as we try to grow those. We've entered into this new agreement with the marketing team, and we're still assessing how that's been playing out with Andrea over here, who is our consultant, who's working on that. We have already begun to implement this Code Red system with the PD, which has been really helpful in that regard. I think that as far as from council, what I would be looking for is, this is my interpretation, especially with the action items, of the most important things that I have heard you say from this table and in other communications in the last 90 days. If you're looking at these action items and there's something that jumps out to you and you said, no, I really need to see this or that I am absolutely open to it, and this would be a great opportunity to tell me what that would be. The goal of the action plans and action items and separating that from the plan was to make it easy to see exactly what action items I'm talking about. And I think that I've done a pretty good grab at what I've heard from you all leading up until this point. So when you're reviewing the action items, if you see, an actual tangible action item that needs to be on this list, I'm definitely open to that feedback.
So I agree with Pam, agree with you. As I said in my opening comments, your responsiveness is incredible. There were times where I'd send an email to the village and 100 days would go by with 5 to 6 follow-ups, and I would hear nothing. So I think what you hear from residents is probably reflective of that type of communication or lack thereof. So even having a plan is a huge value that you bring to the village, so thank you. And I know we discussed this before, and it's in there in theory, but just the remote participation.
Yep.
And then we may have to approve funding for renting some space from
Yes.
the village or the church, and then approve additional funding for getting the cable board here earlier. So I guess that's what you're talking about with some of these initiatives may come to the board for council. But I did have a text from someone who was like, can we just participate via public comment over Zoom, kind of like the way Mike did when he was here listening, but not necessarily, because what happens is people watch it on YouTube 3 days later and they want to say something, but they couldn't make it here. So they want to know if how Dana opened up Zoom to take public comment and do a hybrid during that time. Because I think there are a lot of people that read the minutes and watch the YouTube, because if you look at the views, it's in the hundreds, but the streaming live is under 10. So 10 times more people watch the this village meeting after it occurs. And so I feel like people want to participate and want to say something and call in on their drive home 6 o'clock, and they can't. So that would just be the only thing of like, until we have the infrastructure to do like a meeting on Zoom that's live, maybe just somehow get the public comment portion of the meeting, remote somehow.
I have a
So-
suggestion.
Yeah, well, and to that, real quick, on page 6, you see upgrade technology in your action item, so it talks about remote participation in Zoom. It's something I've looked at a lot. I think U of M does the best job at managing that. I have distributed to, because this conversation started a lot in planning, to the planning commission, their policies on it, and that's how I would hope to adopt something moving forward. It would basically allow someone to call in and give public comment. It does not allow for live chat back and forth and trying to enter that into the record and manage that and maintain that from, a lot of different perspectives there. So it is one of my action items in the plan, and it's something that I've heard from both planning commission and from the village council. It's a very easy thing to implement as far as I would draft a policy for how it's going to be done. It would be effectively communicated to our residents, and we would have to upgrade our Zoom subscription. But no chatting, it would still have to be. Now, it's important, I think now is a good time for all of our residents. If you have a public comment to make and you're unable to make a meeting, you can always submit your public comment in writing. Email, drop it off, mail it in, and we can get it entered in on the record. But in today's day and age, it is important to provide this remote participation. So in order to do that, we need some better microphones on our computers. As we saw with Mike, it's really hard for him to
Well,
hear us and.
Okay, but I would encourage us to watch or visit a Birmingham or Bloomfield Township Council meeting and see that when they take Zoom participants, it's very hard for people to hear. It's very difficult to get clear responses, and the technology, not everybody has the ability to communicate that way, even if they try. So I do like the idea of submission of written email, and anybody who's watching our YouTube videos after the fact, if they have something they care to opine on, should be able to simply do that by submitting an email to the village, and we can review those and see how that goes. Bloomfield Township won't allow public comments. They have to be submitted in writing. And then the council decides which ones they're going to read and which ones they're going to completely ignore. So there is no blanket policy for this, but I've seen it in a couple different places, and it's real muddy when you have people that don't have the technological ability to try to communicate in a forum, in a public forum like that. And I think the council is I think it's a great idea that we want to try to invite more communication, but I think we should be mindful of how difficult that is. And we don't have the greatest technology right here in the village of Franklin in terms of communication. And so anyway.
So, sorry, are you done?
No,
No, not, Angelina, you were going through your comments, so.
Well, I just see
wanna-
it differently. I see some people don't have the technological capability, but some people don't have the physical capability to get down here.
That's why I suggest that they send in their messaging, and we can still respond. I think that's a good solution to the problem.
I'll jump in, because again, I don't really want to do a back and forth right now on a document when that's just a small component of it, so I'll just give my feedback, which is minimal. My thoughts on this are kind of twofold. One, there's a lot of action items in here, so I think what would be helpful for council, and this is, again, this is your document, do with it what you will, but if you create priority of or an expectation of hey, not all this is gonna get done this year, right? So kind of what can we expect with a timeline so that, again, you all can get to it when you have the resources available, but understanding what's a top priority, I think would be helpful for us. As well as, I think what would be helpful for council is enlighten the conversation that just happened. I don't want you to get conflicting feedback of what parts we want and what we don't want, because some people are gonna feel strongly about remote participation over Zoom where somebody can call in and provide comments, other people won't. So you're now getting two conflicting ideas. I think council needs to meet on some of these issues around what are our priorities. Like, I do think we need a priorities meeting even beyond communication, right? To be able to say at a high level, these are the things that we find important. How can we do that in a constructive way to make sure that things that aren't incorporated into this are being removed when maybe the majority of council feels that it should be included? I just want to make sure that we're having an efficient movement forward through this.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. And I would say, like, it isn't common practice that I would develop a policy or a plan that would necessarily go in front of council. The reason that we're talking about this tonight and have at other times is because communications and transparency are two words that are used so frequently around, this council and our village administration, that I felt like this in particular was an administrative policy that I would bring forward to you, because our goals, should always align, but our perspectives will be different, and the way that we execute and prioritize between you as a legislative body and me as the administrator could be different. And so I hear what you're saying there. I can definitely put together a timeline of action items. I mean, some of these have already been in the process and are getting completed, and I think that that can be important there. And I think that it's also good to frame that for this, if you don't see something in there that you need in there, let me know. I think that, like, remote participation in a meeting, it could be open for a further discussion. But other than that, I think that a lot of these communication action items and priorities will come from my staff and myself. I just want to make sure that there isn't anything out there that we're missing and that you would like to see and add. And so it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to sit at our time together and pick through an administrative policy when this is just it's not how it's intended and it's not what it's for. But I think it is important to talk about what are the action items and what's a timeline on that. And I think that's something I can bring back to council next time. You've seen our communication plan, we've laid out our action items, and here's how we're going to prioritize these. Now, council, do you agree? Do you have something you want us to focus on instead? Are we missing something? That might be a healthier spot for a conversation versus bringing back the entire plan.
Agree.
It's just a suggestion.
Agree.
So the most interesting thing about this conversation for me was when Angelina said, you are so responsive. You get back to me within minutes or an hour when I make a request. To me, that's a metric. That's a signal to, in this case, Angelina, that by hearing that and getting that response from you, without speaking for you, that you are assured that somebody's on communication, that it's working, that the communication that you're expecting is happening. I wonder if the conversation, when we have it, is really to ask you, do you feel like you know what's important to each of us? And are we ready to tell you? How you get that done, to me, is your business.
Absolutely, yep.
I mean, but do you know what Mike thinks is important? How does Mike know that the communication in this village is working properly? Do you know about Dan? Do you know about me, David? I think that's the kind of conversation I would find very interesting. And that way you have your metrics and you can go about your work.
Yeah, I think that is really great feedback there, and I think metrics are important, and that's why I incorporated those measurements. And the most information
And I
I
did
get
see that,
are
yes.
from these one-on-one conversations, and I have, in my first 90 days, spent time trying to sort of frame that, and that all goes into a larger strategic planning conversation too. I mean, I can see the way that those overlap, like what's important to each individual council member and how those overlap too. So I can see that being a really valuable conversation as well. And I tried to draft goals that tie back into the objectives of the plan and to provide measurement, because I think that that's really important too. We don't want to be having the same conversation in a year, that we need to be more communicative and more transparent in a blanket statement. We want to have this conversation in a year and say, okay, this worked and this didn't, and this is where we need to focus. And so in that aspect, it could be very much a council, document in place for feedback. So I think from what I'm hearing right now, just to summarize, I'm hearing that the action items are important, and the way that we're measuring, gathering the information to those action items are important. We need a timeline and prioritizing those action items, and we're open to further action items from council as suggestions as they would pertain to the communications plan. And I will prepare that and make sure that that's back at our next meeting.
Great.
So would we like to see the communications plan in entirety come back, or are we comfortable with that? And then we focus more on our action items, timeline, and priorities?
Do we have the action,
If you don't
the
mind,
original
it's-
plan? You sent it to us already. So we
Yeah.
should be able to find it.
Yeah, I'll resend it out as soon as we're finished here.
If you recirculated the community, that would
I'm
help.
gonna recirculate
Just so we
the
know what
plan
to bring
and
from.
the action items, because there's a lot of back and forth here. So I'll get all of that right back out to everybody. And then I will draft a new document that prioritizes those, puts them in a timeline, and gives us some real measurements on them.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, our only item of new business is we need to consider a resolution to name our village administrator as our designated street administrator with the Department of Transportation. We have looks like this is a form resolution that has already been completed, with the exception of we need someone to make a motion and someone to second.
I make a motion to accept the resolution for designation of our street administrator as our village administrator, Meg Schubert.
Second.
All right, so you got it, motion by Commissioner or Trustee Seltzer. It was supported by Trustee Solly. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries, so if you guys want to get this submitted,
Perfect, my dream job.
Nailed it.
that is everything on the agenda. So if I can get a motion to
Motion to
adjourn?
adjourn.
Second?
Second.
A second, we got a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, everyone, thank